Thank you so much.
So we have a proclamation celebrating the founding of the American Red Cross. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to honor the kindness of our neighbors who aid families in need every day in Griffin, across the United States and around the world. Their dedication touches millions of lives each year as they carry out the organization's 140-year mission of preventing and alleviating suffering. Whereas during the trying times of the coronavirus pandemic, people have stepped up to help others in need, whether it was responding to this year's record-breaking disasters across the country or rolling up their sleeves to give blood when our country faced a severe blood shortage. Whereas here in Griffin, local families have relied on 8 volunteers for comfort and hope while coping with home fires, fallen trees, and flooding. Last year, 8 Central Midwest Georgia volunteers responded in person and virtually when called upon during the disaster. Volunteers also helped 29 families affected by 20 home fires in Spalding County by addressing their urgent needs like food, lodging, and recovery support. Whereas Central Midwest Georgia volunteers have supported local families in other ways too. Last year in Griffin, the Red Cross collected 1,060 units of blood, provided 108 case services to 58 military families through our services to the Armed Forces programming, and trained 174 people in life-saving skills such as CPR or first aid. Whereas this life-saving work is vital to strengthening our community's resilience, nearly 200 years since the birth of America's Red Cross founder, Claire Barton, we dedicated this month of March to all those who continue to advance her noble legacy, and we ask others to join in their commitment to care for people in need. Now therefore, the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim March 2021 to be American Red Cross Month in Griffin and calls upon public officials and private citizens to reach out and support its humanitarian mission. In witness thereof, I have hereundo set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Griffin to be affixed this 23rd day of March in the year of the Lord 2021. Douglas S. Holberg, Mayor, and Kenny L. Smith, City Manager.
Thank you so much. Susan's going to get a picture for us.
Okay, all right.
One, two, three. Still on there?
Well,
1, 2, 3. Thank you.
and I want to thank the Red Cross. Y'all have helped many families that we've served over the years with disasters. Saved my life when I had an accident as a kid in terms of blood providing and stuff. So your services, whether it's through first aid or you're a blessing to this community. If you'd like to say a couple of words, feel free to do so.
I just want to thank the community. Thank you to our volunteers. Thank you to council for just the support that of Red Cross, especially for this month for our 140th anniversary. So thank you so much for your support. We're so glad to be able to serve the Griffin and Spalding County community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you again, Ms. Winter, for being here tonight. Moving into citizens' comment. At this time, the mayor opens the floor to comments from the audience. Comments should relate to a specific agenda item not listed on the agenda for a public hearing or to a concern within the jurisdiction of the city. Commission meetings serve the purpose of conducting city business and are not a forum for the unlimited expression of opinion. The mayor reserves the right to limit comments to matters germane to city business and may refer speakers to the city manager or to other staff for resolution. With that being said, is there anybody on my left side that would like to speak on a matter other than a public hearing? Is there anybody on my left side? Is there anybody on my right side who'd like to come before the board other than a public hearing information? Yes, sir. If you'd like to please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Be glad to. My name is Gary Kendrick. I live at 195 Lincoln Circle, Griffin, Georgia. I'm here to oppose on the item on the agenda of the rezoning and annexation of the property on Williamson Road.
Mr. Gary, if you can hold to the public hearing section for that comment.
Okay.
So I'll let you be first if you can let us get through the.
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
I just
Thank you.
didn't realize.
That's fine.
But I do oppose.
Yes, sir. Is there anybody on my right that'd like to speak in citizens' comment other than on a public hearing matter? Ms. O'Connor, do you have any emails or anything?
Mayor Holberg, we did have one that came in. It did not come in appropriately, and I think that they also mentioned that they would be here, so I'd rather them speak for themselves. That's David and Nora Smith.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you plan to speak? Okay.
Perfect. Is there anybody on Zoom that's wanting to speak in terms of citizen comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving into public hearings. Public hearings are conducted to allow public comments on specific advertised issues such as rezoning, ordinances, policy development, operating budgets, and other legislative actions to be considered by the City Commission. Under item 2, receive comments regarding a request for a special use permit to allow for the use of a single-family dwelling unit in planned commercial development, PCD, for property located at 214 South 12th Street. Director of Planning and Development, Chad Jacobs, will address. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So what we have before you again is a special use permit request, much like some that we've had within the last year. This is to utilize a residentially constructed property that is in a commercial zoned area and has been used commercial in the past. The applicant would like to use the structure residentially. So staff is recommending conditional approval of the request with the following conditions, that the structure shall meet all requirements of applicable residential codes to bring the structure into compliance. B, additionally, if the structure reverts to a commercial use, then it must meet all applicable commercial codes and occupancy requirements, with parts being that maximum occupancy based on formulas contained in the statewide minimum building code, and then also fire and life safety compliance based on inspection. Finally, upon vacating this location for its principal site, the special use permit will be void. On March 15th, the Planning and Zoning Board also recommended approval with the same staff conditions.
Are there any questions of the commissioners?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs? Yes, ma'am.
So condition C, upon vacating the location, I think that, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The application states that she intends to owner occupy
Yes.
at this point. So if she moves out and wants to rent,
The
is this,
trigger for that would be if somebody comes in wanting to convert it to a commercial, so the OTC and things of that nature, then that's when this will kick in.
okay, so even though it says upon vacating for its principal site, this is meaning once someone is no longer using it as a
Residential.
residential structure,
Yes, ma'am.
whether it's renter or owner
Yes,
occupied? Okay,
And then after how many months of being vacant, does it revert back to the commercial zoning?
Well, it's always going to be commercial, so the underlying zoning is consistently commercial. That's why the special use is necessary in this instance.
But it's saying it's vacant for 6 months, but it loses the special use.
So-
Or it's going to continue on indefinitely.
It'll continue on definitely where the trigger is going to be is once somebody comes in and applies to utilize it commercially. And then that's when they'll have to bring it back up to commercial compliance.
Okay, I think, hold on, Mr. Jacobs, I think Mayor Holberg's question was, will they lose the special use permit after 6 months? The special use in condition C is void immediately. upon
Yeah,
vacation.
immediately. Sorry, correct.
The
Okay, so-
zoning will remain the same as commercial, but the special use will immediately become void.
So when it becomes vacant, it becomes void.
Yes.
Correct.
okay, wait a minute, 'cause then I think that's what I was attempting to ask. So if we give this use, it'll be owner occupied. If she decides that she no longer wants to live there in December, but she wants to rent it in January, is it still special use residential, or is it as soon as she leaves in December, that's the end of it?
Yes. So, and that's another way that we can trigger that would be through the, when the account is set up with the utilities.
Okay. Okay. So this is for her specifically to live in the
Correct.
property and not to
Correct.
become, okay. Gotcha.
This is just like the one we did on South Fifth, and then we did one previously, in the same, in the general vicinity close to this one as well, so kind of staying consistent, again, the special use option gives us a fluidity to kind of move back and forth within these commercial zone
Okay.
areas.
Are there other residents, any special residential in that area as well?
There's actually property that's to the south of this, that's being used residentially, but it's also its own planned commercial.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? This is a public hearing. At this time, would anybody like to speak before the board on this matter? Please come forward. Anybody on my left? Anybody on my right? Does the applicant have any requests to speak? Are we good? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jacobs.
Item 3 under public hearings, receive comments regarding a request to annex and rezone property located on Williamson Road consisting of 30.24 acres from office and institutional county to high-density residential. They, City Director of Planning and Development, Chad Jacobs, will address.
Okay, so the applicant, Harvey Cocotin, is requesting annexation of the subject property into the city of Griffin and a zoning change from what the county currently has it as office and institutional or O&I to high-density residential A, or as we refer to it as HDRA. The property is currently located on Williamson Road and is approximately 30 acres. The applicant is proposing an apartment community of approximately 150 dwelling units, offering a mix of 1 to 4 bedroom units for households earning 60% of the area median income. Proposed amenities will likely include a community building with a business center, wellness room, and community room, a community garden, playground, and outdoor covered picnic area. The structures will be developed with hardy plank siding and brick accents, which I might add, that is required within our ordinance part of 605F. The request is compliant with the residential designation of the city's comprehensive plan and future land use map in the surrounding city limits areas, and which was actually planned the same before it was de-annexed in 2014 as well. And it's also compliant with the current Spalding County Comprehensive Plan and future land use map of a suburban neighborhood. Staff is recommending conditional approval of the request to annex and to rezone with the following conditions. The development shall not exceed 150 multiple family dwelling units, and B, a 100-foot vegetative buffer, either natural or planted, shall exist along all adjacent single-family residentially used property lines. On March 15th, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to approve with the same conditions as well.
Are there any questions from the board at this time, Mr. Jacobs?
Not at this point.
Okay, great.
I assume the developer would like to make a presentation.
Harvey Pilkington, 1014 Waverly Drive, Griffin. This is my development partner, Rochelle Patton. She's going to tell you a little more about it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rochelle Patton. Pardon me with the mask on. My name is Rochelle Patton, Richelle. I know people ask about that. Patton, like the general. I'm with Collaborative Housing Solutions. We're an affordable housing owner and developer. I've been doing this type of development for about 26 years. And I come here tonight in partnership with Harvey and his family. Harvey owns the property. And what we'd like to build is 150 apartments, affordable apartments. And these would, of course, have some of the amenities that were mentioned. We're still in the design phase, so we've not finished the amenities yet. But it'd be a total of hopefully 5 residential buildings and 1 community building. The rents will be approximately, depending of course on when we open, but around $695 to $925 a month. When we talk about affordable housing, I want to be really clear, and I'm really glad there's a lot of people here. I would like to clarify to make sure that we're all understanding the types of residents that we plan to serve. These are folks that are working in our community and in the surrounding communities. This would be folks that are earning 60% of the area median income. And what that translates to on an annual salary basis would be $35,000 to approximately $54,000, depending on their family size. So I want to be really clear. These are folks that, may be working in our convenience stores or grocery stores, in hospitality, who may be helping with our yard work, are working in some of our plants and some commercial stores that we visit every day, including our grocery store, the person who is checking our food, that oftentimes is the folks that we're serving. This will not be public housing, nor will it be Section 8 housing. So to clarify what that is, in case people don't know what that means, HUD offers rental assistance through rental subsidy to residents who make a very low income, so that they only pay 30% of their income, and then HUD pays the difference for the total rent that a landlord gets. Most often, Section 8 is used for folks making significantly less than the area median income levels that I just talked about. We're not serving that low of incomes. We're serving, like I said, that 35,000 to 54,000. There'll be no rental assistance, so they're gonna need to pay their own rents, of course, every month, which means, of course, that they are working or have some sort of, Social Security if they're elderly. So I just wanted to be very clear when we talk about affordable housing, that has to do with the financing of our project. We'll be using affordable housing tax credits that are offered, that are administered through the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. They have very strict guidelines, as well as the investors who provide the equity and the lender who provides the debt, of course, for mortgage. They have very high standards that we maintain and operate these projects, not only to residents who can pay rent, not only to residents who are in that, within that affordable income range, but also we as a landlord have to maintain them on the physical property as well as the financial sustainability. So we have accountability, whereas a lot of private landlords in the surrounding area from us, as well as other parts of Griffin and the county, many of those private landlords have no accountability. So they can choose to invest in their properties and keep them upright, or they don't have to because they don't have a state agency or potentially other investors that are requiring that. Something else to really keep in mind is that when we are doing this type of financing, that Harvey and I are going to be a long-term owner. We're not just going to buy, develop it and then flip it. That's not how affordable housing works compared to some other private, landlords. We will own this. We have to make promises to keep it affordable for a very long time. We have to keep it upright, upkeep and all of that for at least 30 years. After 15 years, we can come back in and do some refinancing. So all of the design choices, the systems we use, all have to be very durable and long lasting. For instance, our roof shingles have to be the architectural shingles with at least a 30-year warranty. As was mentioned, we'll have hardy plank and brick, which of course are long-term. All of our appliances and systems will be energy efficient because we will also be going through the National Green Building Standards certification. So that means we'll have, energy efficient windows and doors and appliances and fixtures. Our flooring will be mostly LVT, which is the, you guys might have some of this in your own homes, which is the laminate hardwood floors. We have that, we have, wood cabinets, we have microwaves, dishwashers, all the typical things that you would have in an apartment community. And was said earlier, some of the common amenities, of course, we will have a community building, which will have our professional property management firm in there, as well as a community room for community events, and as well as we will likely have a business center with computers, printer, all the things that you might see in a hotel business center. So for residents that they can use Wi-Fi, and if they need to, take courses online. We'll also have some other community amenities. Typically, what that might include is a playground, pavilion with barbecue, and picnic tables. We still haven't worked out all of the design, but it might have walking trails or a community garden. Some other things we might choose would be a wellness room. And again, all of this has to be very good quality, high construction, because we have to maintain this for decades. So whereas some landlords might be selling it and flipping it within 2 years and don't really care about, you know, what the property looks like or their residents of how they're upkeeping it, that's not us. We're in it for the long haul. Something else to keep in mind is that we have this state agency, like I said, that allocates the tax credits, but they also will be doing an annual audit, an annual inspections to make sure that all of our properties are up to speed. In addition, how we're also different than sometimes other private landlords that may be in the area is that we're required both from the state agency and our investors to have replacement reserve deposits that we're escrowing every month. And so if any of you have like an HOA fee, it's similar to that, where every month we're starting to put money away into a reserve that when we need to do those big ticket items like you know, replacing appliances or hot water heaters or, you know, the big systems, all that we have the money saved up for the rainy day of when we're doing that. We also, of course, have a nice, robust maintenance budget, landscaping, professional property management. All of this goes through rigorous underwriting from our investors and our lender and the state agency to make sure that our operating budget is comparable to other properties of this caliber, so that we're not gonna, you know, be able to build it and not have the money to maintain it over time. So I just wanted to thank you again. I know that we got unanimous support from the Planning and Zoning Board when we were here last week. There was a lot of some spirited questions. And I think hopefully if you guys have questions, we'd be happy to answer. The last thing I'll say is that we do know, of course, and I know Harvey's talked to the city at length about the fact that you have sewer capacity issues right now. And so we are willing on our dime to build a sewer package system, which would be behind the buildings. It would certainly be far more buffer with surrounding uses than what we're even being required with that 100-foot buffer of a landscape or natural buffer. And in that way, then we're not taxing, we're not gonna, you know, add to the overcapacity to the city. We are paying property taxes. The back of the envelope, it'll depend on the value of the building at the time, but the back of the envelope that I've ran, that's about $140,000 to the county and city annually. So we are doing our very best to, you know, be good neighbors. We're here for the long haul. Okay, that's what I've been doing this for about 26 years. I've been involved with about 25 of these projects. I've also done a lot of other consulting on about 25,000 apartments around the Southeast. And so I just want to make sure.
Ma'am, please. Thank you.
I just want to make sure, again, reiterate, this is not public housing. This is not Section 8 housing. This is serving people who make $35,000 to about $54,000 per year. These are folks in our community that are, you know, oftentimes struggling to make rent because the rents are too high, or for those rents that are affordable, they're in substandard conditions. And we feel like we're hoping to be a long-term, you know, good member of this community.
Are there any questions from the board at this time?
Yes. You go.
You want me to go? This is not going to be your favorite question. But tell me if the houses are going to cost better than $100,000. You said, what income levels was this?
Yeah, these are apartments. We're not selling them as single-family homes. These will be apartments, and the rents will be between $695 to $925 per month in rent. And this is serving folks who obviously can pay those rents. We have to verify that they have their.
That's my question right there. How have you determined at the income level in Spalding County of Griffin, Georgia, is gonna warrant those to be sold on a reasonable time.
Sure. I think the question is, how are we gonna make sure that we're able to rent at these rents? We have some market data, and market analysis done. I would also like to point out, that, there has been a property, not too far away called Tranquility at Griffin that some of you might know as well, that just finished very recently and has been leasing up. I hope that you would see that that is a high quality, a good design that actually is in the county right now. So the county has approved this type of housing in the past. And I hope that you'll see that we're to that same quality, that you won't be able, whatever people have as their vision of what affordable housing is, when you drive by, what you're gonna see is high quality housing.
And you, Harvey, I know you had shared with me your estimated cost. I think Mr. Brock was asking how much the value is per unit.
Oh, per unit in terms of our total development cost.
The total cost.
Yeah, it's right now, it's gonna be about $160,000 per unit.
What's the average income?
Average income, right, is, right now, we're targeting, based on family size, between $35,000 a year and $54,000 a year.
That work.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean it doesn't work? I'll be happy to explain.
In my mathematics, I'm saying that will not work successfully sell all these properties
Sure.
without real problems. With us taking over the sewage,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I guess we got the water too, I don't know what all we got.
Yeah, well, sir, we're
What I'm
not.
saying is, I don't think the money's there to do it.
So, this money is not coming from the city to build the apartments. I want to be really clear. We're not asking to come to the city to help build these. We're using the affordable tax credits that are allocated from the state agency. And then we sell these tax credits to an investor like a bank, and that they're our long-term investor, with us. They provide that money as equity. That doesn't need to be repaid as long as we, like I said earlier, maintain it to a high quality, we rent it to the right income levels. And then we have a very low mortgage because we have a significant amount of this tax credit equity. And that's how we're able to make those rents work, is because we have this significant tax credits that are
Will our
allocated.
local bank be able to participate in this program?
Pardon me, sir?
Will our local bank be able to participate in this program?
We will
As far as
certainly.
financing?
That's right. We certainly have a need for a construction loan. And so we're certainly happy to talk to the local banks if they're willing and interested in doing this.
Some of this already done, or y'all just,
No, we're in the pre-development stage, sir.
okay.
So we have not inked the deal, if you will, with any specific lender or investor yet.
Ms. Flowers.
Yes. Okay, let me go on the side of the microphone, sorry. Okay, first question is, you mentioned annual audits and inspections. I want to know what's inspected, like is this per unit, is it just the totality of the development, like specifically what's inspected?
Sure, so they will of course inspect the grounds and make sure that all the amenities that we promised are there and still functioning. They'll make sure that the grounds and the exteriors are being maintained to a high quality. They'll also do a percentage of the units and the interior that they'll look at as well. They also look at our files, and they do audits of our files to make sure that we are keeping them, compliant with federal and state regulations, as well as our equity investors and our lenders also have requirements. We do audited financial statements every year. We file tax returns every year. And like I said, we would be paying property taxes. So there's a tremendous amount of oversight that other private landlords typically don't have.
Yeah, okay, so, as a follow-up, do you have a specific number on a percentage of the interiors, or how is that determined of what's inspected?
Sure, I believe it's 25%. I would need to go back and look at
Right,
the
I mean,
documents,
just kind
but
of ballpark.
yeah, it's a percentage of the interior of the units. The other thing to keep in mind is that our property management folks are often doing housekeeping checks to check to make sure that the interior of the units are being kept up as what they're supposed to according to their lease. And if residents are not, living in their units appropriately, meaning if they have too many people in that unit, if they're doing illegal activities, of course, in that unit, if they're doing anything to damage the units, then that's grounds for eviction. As well, of course, if they're doing any damage or any of illegal activities or other things that are harmful to the exterior or to the community in general, we evict them.
Okay, next question. You said there's oversight by DCA.
That's right, that's the Georgia Department of Community Affairs.
Is DCA present only for the life of the original mortgage, or how long was oversight provided by DCA?
30 years.
Okay, so if you refinance at 15, and let's say you refinance into a 30, just as
Right.
regulation, only the first 15 of that still requires oversight.
We promise to keep it affordable for 30 years.
Okay,
Unless, within 30 years, let's say, we go back in for tax credits and then you do it for another 30 years
Okay.
at that point.
hold on, I scribbled too much on this.
That's okay, what would that be, 2051? Is that right, 30 years?
Okay. I have another question.
Sure.
I got that. I had kind of asked this question, earlier, just in general. You touched it about the amenities.
Sure.
My question at this point is, what determines the amenities? The concern that I have with that, and I think I had expressed it previously, is that the language in the packet says likely
That's right.
amenities. And we do have a history in this community of, oh, we're gonna make this really nice thing.
Right.
And then at the end of it, there's no sidewalks or even stop signs in the development. So what, you have listed several amenities that are possible, but what actually determines the amenities that go in?
That's a great question. The state agency DCA has a requirement that we have a community building
Okay,
and that we have washer and dryer hookups in all of our units. And that in the community building, I meant to fail to mention that we also have, a laundry room. In addition, we must make at least 4 common amenities on top of all the amenities in the apartments. So we will choose 4. Again, because we're in the design and planning phase, those have not been finalized yet. I was also hoping, I did mention to the couple that came last week and is here again tonight, that we also try to seek feedback from the neighborhood about what they might recommend. Presumably, many of the neighborhoods that the communities that I've worked in, many of the neighbors have friends or family or loved ones that might want to live in the apartments we're building. And so presumably, I would assume that some of the community might have friends or family that they would like to live in this, beautiful community. And so we like to try to get some feedback from the local community if they have suggestions of things that they think might be appropriate.
and so as a policy measure, you're required to place at least 4 common amenities outside of the actual unit. So of these things that the community room doesn't count.
Right, the community building is in addition to the 4 that I
Okay,
mentioned.
so the additional 4 could be your business center, playground, pavilion, walking trail, community garden, or wellness room.
Right,
But you have to have 4,
at least 4.
okay, at least 4.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then I've got 2 other questions, and I will not really sure how they kind of touch each other, so I'll just give you both, and then you can figure out where you want to go with it.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have a question about the vegetative buffer.
Okay.
Where is the language that says it will touch residential property lines, right? I don't know, I saw some.
Yeah,
in the
it might be
papers.
helpful, I believe it was in your packet, but it might be helpful, now again, this is a preliminary conceptual site plan. We've not submitted this to the planning department for building permits, any of that, so please understand that will be in collaboration with, the city as well, when we're ready to go in for permitting. But right now, what you can see is here's the 30 acres approximately, a little over 30 acres.
Mhm,
To get your bearing, here's Oak Grove Road,
mhm,
and Williamson's right this way.
mhm.
So right now, what we planned is that the buildings are front-loaded onto Williamson. That's gonna be the point of egress, of access.
Okay.
And what you can see is we have a number of acres that is, at this point, planning to be undisturbed and just keep as green space. What you might be able to see in a little bigger here is the yellow dotted line shows you what 100 feet looks like in comparison. You might be able to see that yellow dotted line here. That shows you in comparison the 100 feet to the entire site. As you can see, in most of the areas, it's far more than 100 feet at this point. And a lot of the site will remain undisturbed.
Okay.
Where will the package plan?
Sure, we have not had it engineered yet, obviously, but you see this little bubble right here of yellow? That's the area that we have potentially have put it at. The area slopes, it sort of peaks right about here, and then it slopes downward. And so this would be, tucked away behind the buildings, it'd be fenced, of course. And the vast majority of it is underground. It's not visible by anyone looking at it.
Okay, question for planning and zoning. Can you see me? Okay. The conditional approval, oh, so much computers up here, I can't find my paper, sorry, y'all, hold on. Look, I got about 3 different things open. Yes, tell me the condition about the unit.
So, A is the developer shall not exceed 150 multiple dwelling units, and B, a 100-foot vegetated buffer, either natural or planted, shall exist along the adjacent single-family residential use property lines.
A, the development shall not exceed 150. Okay, so they've got this concept drawing that's kind of front-loaded, that at this point is vegetative for the majority of the back of the property. If in 30 years, at the end of their mortgage, and conditions change, if they no longer own or whatever, is that property still held to the 150 units, or could someone come in and clear cut the back of the property and put additional units?
They would need to come back in and get approval from this body.
Okay, so
150.
at this, as it stands, if this were approved in perpetuity, what they build at 150 is what it has to be, unless there is some additional thing to go along with it. And the other part I had, the other question about that is, let's say that someone wanted to come in and subdivide the lot, and purchase the back half. Is, how does that work in terms of maintaining, right, because now
My position on that is the same condition would still apply even, because you would be zoning an HDRA with these conditions onto that property, even if you were to subdivide it into 2 tracts, you would have the same conditions onto those 2 tracts.
So theoretically, even if they in 30 years sold off the back half of it, they would not be allowed to put multiple family units on it without some additional, they would have to basically come back
Correct,
for an additional petition.
correct.
And just to let you know, Harvey and I don't intend to build more than 150 units,
Correct.
just so you hear that out loud. Might be an
Just in
assumption.
perpetuity.
You guys could even further condition it to be apartments. So that way it's 150 apartment units,
As opposed to just this saying multiple family dwellings.
condominiums or what have you.
Okay, I think, okay, I'm right, let me see, that might have been my last, that's my last question.
So we
at
need to
this point.
condition that to make sure that it's apartment community, not
If you want, so
townhome
too.
or. And when you say apartment, that's excess of 4 units per building. That's 5 or more units per building, based on.
How we have it defined in the UDC.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we were talking 1 to 4 bedrooms and your company will be responsible for, kind of the restricting how many people live in each unit. How many people can live in a 4-bedroom unit?
HUD's definition is 1.5 people per bedroom. Harvey and I very likely are only gonna choose up to 3 bedrooms. But we're still in the planning phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next question, because, time gets away from us all, and I've lived here long enough to see these projects that didn't get finished or
Yes, ma'am.
was sold and we don't have the same restrictions, and so, I do worry about the density of the area. That is anytime you have multi-units like that, I mean, I understand that. But I guess one of my main concerns is, you said 30 years, you can refinance it 15 years and so forth, but, I mean, even at my age, I may not be here in 15 years. So what happens, I mean, seriously, I hate to say that, but, you know, we're not
That sounds good to
super
me.
young either,
Right.
but where I'm getting at, well, she's a baby, but anyway, where we're getting at is, where I'm getting at, let's say even in 10 years.
Sure.
You want to set me, we can chat, I mean, can we come back and hold the next property owner? Because, I definitely want to hold you to maintaining, I'm familiar with your units in Milner, they look great. It's a perfect project, you know, it's probably not the same idea as this, but I know you built it, right? Milner Creek, right? So, and I'm familiar with a lot of your building, but as far as this project, I'm kind of not familiar with it. So I just want to make sure that we are able to hold and kind of, police the right word, but restrict that I need these properties to be maintained exactly the way you're saying.
Right.
And I, you know, you might want to sell out, you might want to turn it into condos, I don't know, but I don't know what legally you can, if you want the property, you can do what you want to do with it.
Well,
That's my issue.
sure, and that's a very valid issue. So let me try to explain. Again, affordable housing is different than typical developments that are just privately held. Again, we are in a partnership together. We have an investor who purchases the tax credits. That becomes one of our partners, and we're all in it together for 15 years with that investor partner. But we're in it with DCA. We have made promises to DCA that this property will remain affordable for 30 years.
Regardless
And so-
of who the owner might be.
Regardless of who the owner is, but we're promising that we will be in partnership, of course. We'll be owning it for 30 years and we're gonna be maintaining it at the same level every, you know, a good quality level every year. So I appreciate your, you know, what happens if we get hit by a bus or something like that. You know, Harvey's got succession plans. I think that's why you see his sons here. I have, you know, various different, staff that obviously aren't here tonight, but, that's why you work with a company as opposed to just one person. But again, we have investors involved and lenders involved for the long haul. And regardless of who's on staff with that company, they're gonna maintain it because we made promises to the state agency. So the state agency is gonna keep, regardless of who the actual person is, and that's actually, I think, the beauty of the affordable housing program is that if somebody proverbially gets hit by a bus, there's a partnership and a team to make sure that those requirements are still met. And those requirements are still there, even if that person, you know, proverbially gets hit by a bus. So I hope that answered your question. That's why we have a lot of attorneys and lenders, investors, the state agency who are underwriting and looking at with a fine-tooth comb, all of our plans and specifications, all of our financial underwriting. They look at our own, you know, financial history, our development record. And, you know, for me, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to turn around to the residents who live near the property. This is more than just a job. This is my faith calling. I feel like you know, we all get to do what hopefully God is wanting us to do. And I really feel like this is part of my calling in life. And so I'm in it for the long haul. And with the state agency, for developers like me, that this is what we do in and day out. If we have one bad deal, that means we do not get to do any more projects. And so not only are we failing the residents we're serving and failing the community and the elected officials that we serve, but then I'm also basically, if I'm doing that, then I am basically cutting off my future business, as well as, of course, my personal calling. But just to give you a sense of, these are very long-term projects. It's not like a market rate developer that might build it, hold it, and then sell it in a couple of years when they, you know.
We're used to that, so trust them for me.
Mr. Tinsman?
I have a question about security.
Yes, sir.
Is this development going to be fancy? Are you going to provide security cameras? Is it going to be gated?
Sure. So we will have security cameras, and we hook those up, you know, through a online system with, you know, all the views coming into the community building. We have not made a decision about gating yet. It depends on, you know, what we have to work through the planning process. Certainly, we will have that sewer system gated and fenced and locked and all of that as well. You know, while we're under construction, there's security there. We do oftentimes hire off-duty police who might want to help, you know, off-duty to do some rounds at certain hours, you know, just to keep things safe. Also, though, the word gets out, right? We're a community, we talk to our neighbors, right? So if word gets out that there's been a family or an individual who has not been treating the property well or has done something that they're not supposed to do, and we evict them, word gets out that, hey, this is the type of property, you can't come here and do some sort of, you know, mischief. That we have a very high standard, and they're going to choose somewhere else, quite frankly, that doesn't have the level of accountability or the responsibility as we do.
Which picture, did you already tell us, maybe just, because those look very different, some are modern, some look, which plan were you thinking?
Yeah, so this is our architect Foley design, and I just included these as typical what they have done. We certainly want to look, you know, we'll be trying to do more of what makes sense in our community here. So it will, you know, not look like modern. It will certainly look more, yeah, like that one on the bottom. Tranquility of Griffin is, you know, is one possibility, but it will have, you know, again, the hardy plank and brick. There will be some nice facades in terms of the roof lines. The community building, you know, will look more like a home, if you will. It's again going to be the green building standards, so we will be doing energy efficiency, like I said, systems, windows, doors, as well as the design of the property itself to try to preserve as many trees.
Is the parking front in the front or behind you?
Well, so where is that? Harvey and I will probably.
Don't have parking yet, do you?
Oh, you don't,
It's not completely designed yet, but it'll be added parking in front of the apartments.
in front of each
Again, as you see, there's a whole lot of the site that we're not using.
Sure, okay.
So we do have adequate room for parking.
So there will be no parking on the streets.
Correct, that's right. We have adequate space on the property itself for all of the parking.
Mr. Ward, do you have any comments? So just on the security, my daughter is now in her 9th apartment in Atlanta, now lives in Dunwoody. My son's in his 3rd apartment in Athens.
Yes, sir.
And finding affordable housing for whether it's college students, school teachers, city employees, whoever. Griffin is in dire need of safe, affordable housing in the community. The idea of gating, I think that may be a very positive option.
Okay.
My kids both have living gated, and it gives that added
Sure.
security and control in the community. And then in terms of your market rents, you're spot on in regards to what people are paying. People are paying, anywhere from $500 up to $1,500. So your rent amounts are justifiable. And I'm very familiar with the Fannie Mae backed loan about the guidelines of quarterly statements,
That's
annual
right.
inspections. Every unit that's vacant has to be inspected.
That's
So the guidelines and expectations as a property manager for these tax credit type of developments is overwhelming.
Yes, sir.
But and if you don't follow suit, that reserve then kicks in. They can drag money out of it to fix it if you're not going to fix it. So,
That's right.
so the regulations and that you have to follow as a property manager are far excessive than an individual owner. And so I commend you on taking on that task.
Thank you. That's why it's a
So
calling.
my 15-year anniversary is June 6th, and I can't wait to get out of the thumbprint and you can go back to traditional marketing. But
Yes, sir. That's why it's a calling.
it can be. So, but does anybody else have any other questions before we open that up to the community? Okay. So thank you very much. Harvey, do you have anything else to say?
No, I just think it's gonna be a high quality development, and we appreciate you both.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Chad, do you have anything else you need to say at this point? Mr. Jacobs?
If you could amend the condition A, just kind of to your point, so that way to guarantee that this would be an apartment development as presented to state that the development shall not exceed 150 multiple family dwelling units, not to include condominium and single family attached units. That would take care of it under how we've defined everything in our unified development ordinance to ensure that it's developed essentially as 150 apartment style multi-family dwelling.
Is that language?
At this point,
Yeah, okay.
So just went back through and checked all the definitions.
All right, so this is a public hearing. We're going to open up the floor. So Mr. Gary from 195 Lennox Circle, I'll let you come back up first, sir. And again, if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
I thank you, but I didn't have to be first.
Okay.
My name is Gary Kendrick. I live at 195 Lennox Circle. I have lived there for 25 plus years. Is this just open for comment, or may I ask questions, or?
You can make comments, or if you have a question that you'd like to
Okay.
ask, sir.
And do I have a time limit?
As quick as possible.
Within reason.
But within reason, yes, sir.
That's fine. I just want to make sure. I have, as I said, I lived there 25 first years, and I realized, I understand, I appreciate their professional presentation. I appreciate young ladies calling. I had a calling life too, and I served 33 years in public service and also into the country. My veteran of the country, visited this country. When I moved on Lennox Circle, that was a residential area, has always been. Our average lot sizes are 1 acre or more. We have seen the city slowly annex toward our area. We moved out there to start with because it was a county area, and it was residential and a good residential neighborhood. I seen on the screen a while ago that area is right in between the city of Griffin and the county. And I had one question about the annexation. The zoning for the county was an office and an institution. And was that for the whole 34 acres, or was that just for the frontage? Because there was a de-annexation of a small amount of property there a few years ago.
We had de-annexation for the purpose of this Veterans
Correct.
Center, and so
Was that entire acreage or just a few acres on front?
The entire acreage was de-annexed, when it was de-annexed out in 2014, then it was zoned office and institution.
Was that already the city of Griffin in the back of that property?
It was de-annexed out of the city of Griffin. So that 30 acres was originally inside the city of Griffin. It was originally zoned as planned residential district, or planned residential development rather, and then de-annexed in 2014 and given a designation of office and institution.
Okay.
So yeah, the answer to your question is the entire tract was in the city of Griffin, even at the back end of it.
Okay. So the city of Griffin limits come all the way to virtually Oak Grove or right in behind the property of Oak Grove.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Also, to the developer here, how many stories is each building?
So we're thinking it'll be 3 stories, sir?
3? And
Yes,
how many units per building?
Well, plus or minus 25 to 30. We're thinking 5 buildings. So each building is a little bigger. Some are bigger, some are smaller.
And that's just on the front, is it going that little narrow strip in the front?
Well, we have to finish our environmental studies, but our plan is to try to front load it up towards the front of that site.
And I also heard you say that you would consult the neighborhood and the neighbors. I have not heard from any of y'all. That would be after the zoning and annexation, I assume.
So we have not done our design yet because this is the first step. And so presuming that we are fortunate enough to get the approval, then we would come to start the design process and solicit feedback.
Thank you. Next question I had was the annexation versus the zoning. Do I understand that the annexation and the zoning is all one package? It's not 2 separate issues?
They're being presented as a combined package issue.
Okay. If it's not approved, I guess what I'm trying to say, you can't hardly deny the annexation, the zoning, unless you annex it. To me, it should be 2 separate issues. I assume annexation would come as a request to start with, and then the zoning second, because you can't hardly zone something that's not annexed to it.
They made a request for the annexation with the rezoning. They could have just come in for the annexation, I assume, and then,
Mayor Holberg, the state law requires a rezoning at the same time of annexation. If you're bringing in a piece of property from a county to a city, you can't have it not zoned. So it has to be zoned something. You can't keep the zoning of the county when it's no longer in the county. So it is required by state law to be done at the same time.
So it has to be zoned as it's annexed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Am I wrong to assume too, and I'm assuming this, I really don't know, but I thought all that frontage on State Route 362 there was zoned commercial, where Dollar General and Shell and all that is, Mr. Zoning person.
That portion, where Dollar General and all that is inside the city limits, and that is on PCD, which is planned commercial. That is currently inside the city.
And what's
It's gonna
the,
be to the east of this subject project.
so the office institution, when it was de-annexed, the county had it zoned to the office institution.
This particular tract,
And-
it was the annex, yes.
And before it was de-annexed, it was commercial,
Planned residential
Planned
development.
planned residence, thank you. Okay.
And sir, it was actually zoned at a higher density. So in theory, Harvey could be built, and the previous.
Well, I realize that because the Powers Court, it showed on your presentation there, it showed Powers Court had little itty lots, and all our lots were 1 acre lots, which it looked like we had a natural growth area buffer there to start with. But you won't take the buffer zone and just develop it to as many as you can get in there, it sounds like. Anyway, I think that's all my questions. If I may look at my list right quick.
Yes, sir.
The young lady with the development here, she mentioned about the affordable income. I'm all for affordable income. In my young life, I had times when I struggled, and I'm sure all people do. However, she also said that they will upkeep the property, they will upkeep the class of occupants in the buildings, but that's within the buildings, and that's within that little planned park. How you gonna keep the people out of our neighborhood? How you gonna keep the crime out of the neighborhood? How you gonna keep, we already have people, I'm trying to be very nice about this. We have people that come through the woods now and ramble through our cars, people on foot, walking, looking for GPS, handguns, anything they can put in their pocket and walk off with it. They stole bicycles out of garages with no wheels on them. And we're now going to put 250 more living units in there. How you gonna keep them people out of our neighborhood? I don't want to say them people. How you gonna keep teenagers, young people walking the streets, looking for something to steal and make a buck? When this lady builds this, and Mr. Cookton here builds these apartments, these units, not homes, not yards, not livable place, but units. And I understand the politics, I understand the value of the dollar. It's all about dollars. But this is our home, and we've lived there a long time, and we love our home, and we work hard for it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name's Brian Boland. I'm a commissioner for District 4 for Spalding County, and I'd like to first off thank y'all for allowing us to come up here and speak. And
Your address, please.
sir, 607 Seminole Drive. That's Griffin.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. As you can see, emotions are running high here tonight. These people here, unlike the people that's going to be coming to these apartments, have built something. They have invested their life in these homes and these pieces of property. 98% of the people here own their home. They're not out here to rent. They're own their home. If you compare that to like Powers Court, Carrington, and now this place, everything around them is rental. Them people don't. I'm not trying to be mean or nothing, but they won't appreciate anything.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. Because this is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, especially me. When we start looking down and start saying them people because they rent, just because a person rents a piece of property has nothing to do with the character of that person.
But if you let me finish.
Because of
I'll get to that
person,
point.
because of the amount of money that they make, and they have to live in housing, affordable housing, and we're gonna keep referring to them as them people. I don't take that lightly.
And we're not gonna start that with them people stuff here tonight.
Okay, that's what
Okay,
you
I mean.
you said it. I didn't say it. You said it. So
The citizens living there then.
citizens that are living there, because they make a certain amount
That's
of
the
money.
problem with everything.
Yeah.
Everybody turns everything to them people into basically a race thing. And I don't mean it by that by no means.
But please.
So we're here to talk about an annexation at this time, sir.
Mr. Boland, if you'll
Yes.
please address the board.
Yeah, I'll apologize for that.
Please,
All right.
point, and then we'll move on.
Okay, just to give a little history, this land was originally in the county. In the mid-1990s, it was annexed into the city for the petticoat development through there. When the housing market and everything kind of went down, went bankrupt, that's when the petticoat development stopped. That was 1 acre lots with water, half-acre lots with water and sewer. When that stopped, that's when that was done over there, and it was Powers Court come to be. That's when they almost tripled the density of the homes. So that's just showing how things are gonna turn out. I know they have good intentions, but I'm not buying what they're selling. I mean, there will be problems. The congestion there, you cannot handle the congestion already. I come out to the end of South Pine Hill, take a right, and I sit there, and I know that's not just for that house, that project there. just people coming from Griffin going to Pike County, it's awful. I'll sit
Pike
there,
County's building 150 houses a year in West. in that
that's
side
correct,
of the
and
county.
then throwing another 150 apartments just right there in the middle of it, it's gonna be a mess. With the comment she made about, holding people accountable, I'm in law enforcement. I write, reports and letters to project, development owners and stuff, to, hey, these people are giving us problems, money talks, so they don't ever kick these people out, they never hold them accountable.
That's not correct.
That's, in my views, that's correct. I mean, my problem, the same people are there. I mean, and that just, my, experience here with Spalding County, working in like the Spalding Heights, and everything. I mean, you can write and document 100 million times and nothing's ever done about it. As for compare Tranquility to this new development here, has people that live right there on it. Tranquility had no opposition. You had a road that's just now being developed behind on the backside of it. So there was nobody there to oppose it. And I promise you, I don't care if it's the city, the county, if the county still had this land, I would oppose it 100%. I would fight, I would have these people here, I would have done the same thing with the county. That area has enough people there going to be brought in. And to follow that up, the stars and the planets and the moons must have aligned, because all 5 of us commissioners opposed this. And this is just started off in January, when we sent letters and all that to y'all opposing this, but now it seems like y'all are going to go ahead with it anyways. And that's just not right. I'm all for building a relationship with y'all, working together with y'all. Hey, we're all on the same team. We're trying to make Griffin, Spalding County great. But with this shows me that, hey, we're just gonna do this anyways. And it just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I have a lot of respect for Holberg and Mr. Tinsley. I haven't had the opportunity to meet the rest of y'all. But it's just starting off wrong. I'm a new guy. I just started in January, so.
I just have one comment. I want to
Yes,
make
ma'am.
sure that you understand it. You know, you got a bad taste in your mouth, but the county's done stuff for years that left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yes, ma'am. And that, hey, there's new commissioners in town. There's gonna be some changes. So, but as we got the people sitting here, is there anybody still outside, or is everybody allowed to come in?
Anybody that, we're gonna let anybody that.
Okay, I understand, but I just want to let y'all know that there were other people outside here to speak off this report. And I do appreciate this time to let me, and I apologize if I offended you, but I didn't mean nothing by it. That's what, time's we're gonna have to get together and get on the same page. Just by saying 2 words, them people, that's just, I'm not referring to anybody, no, ethnically, and it's just, I'm getting tired of that. Even on our board, it's the same thing that's coming up.
If you're getting tired of it, just imagine how I feel. If you're tired of hearing that kind of stuff, imagine how the rest of us feel. And what only thing we're here for, they got a project they want to put out, it's about a de-annexation. If we start talking about criminals, you brought up Spalding Heights, comparing Spalding Heights to this development based on how do you
give it after 30 years?
Yeah, you said Spalding Heights and this are the same, you consider that the same?
No, I was using Spalding Heights as an example. You totally taking me out of context.
That's why I'm asking.
When I said Spalding Heights, I was bringing up about when I used to work Spalding Heights, and I bring it to the management's attention that we was having problems and nothing ever been done.
Okay.
I haven't compared this to this development.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's, so, again, I appreciate you spending your time here, but I'm not buying what you're selling. Because it may be all pretty at first couple of years, but we're gonna have problems with that there on our side of the county. And we owe it to these people right here that have put their hearts and souls and their land to at least think about this.
Mr. Foley.
Yes, sir.
Please address the board.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Okay. But that's all I got. I'm done.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Name and address for the record.
Steve Betzel, 760 Oak Grove Road. I built my house about 30 years ago. On the left, when you come down Oak Grove, we have 3 acres. All the houses next to me have 3. Over the years, we've built a good community. I got good neighbors on each side of me, across the street. We love to sit out on the porch, watch cars go by, and we do not want to see them things over the tree line next to us. I don't know where y'all live or what the value of y'all's houses are, but would you like to walk out of your yard and see that? Or would they be willing to buy our houses and we'll move to Pike County? You know, I'd be more than willing to sell them my 3 acres and house and get out of Griffin. I just really hope that y'all think about it and do the right thing, or maybe when it comes time for us to vote, we'll do the right thing. Thank you.
Name and address for record, please.
I'm Debbie Bell. My address is 147 Mulberry Road, Molina, Georgia, 30258. I'm the Director of Community Development for Spalding County, and I'm here on behalf of the Spalding County Board of Commissioners. This is a letter written March 15, 2021 to Mr. Jacobs regarding this rezoning. Dear Mr. Jacobs, rezoning application 21RZ06, the application will be considered by the City of Griffin City Planning Commission on March 15, 2021. On January 12, 2021, Spalding County, the county, notified the city of its objection to the approval of the application, and its objections to approval continue. The county requests that the city's planning commission accept this letter as its statement of objections to the approval of the application. The county objects to the approval of the application based on the following. A, the proposed development represents a substantial increase in intensity of development, which will adversely impact existing residential development in unincorporated Spalding County along Lenox Circle, Oak Grove Road, and Petticoat Lane, because it significantly increases residential density. B, the further development of additional rental properties financed by low-income tax credits in the vicinity of the intersection of Georgia Highway 362 and South Pine Hill Road is not needed, as multiple affordable rental opportunities already exist along South Pine Hill Road, as previously approved in the city's prior annexations and zonings. C, the development of additional rental properties will cause the further decline of housing stock in the general vicinity, which is already impacted by existing developments such as Powers Court subdivision, Carrington Court, and Vineyard Hill Apartments. D, the proposed development will be inconsistent with existing adjacent zoning classifications applied to properties located in unincorporated Spalding County. For these reasons, the county opposes the application and urges the City Planning Commission to recommend its denial. Best regards, William P. Wilson, Jr., County Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ma'am? Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
During Kendrick, 195 Lenox Circle. I don't think I've heard this question asked, but how are we going to get all of the cars that's going to be already existing and that will be in the development off and out onto Highway 362? We're already extremely crowded, and you have to, as somebody said before, have to sit and wait to get out on the highway. But is it going to come with a deceleration lane into the apartments off of 362? Are you going to bring a road out into Oak Grove to try to get the people out of there? Just what are you going to do about the traffic?
So my assumption is that you'll have to do.
This is a state highway, so it will be required to have a decel, XL lanes.
On my right, we'll continue. Is there anybody else on my right?
What was the answer to?
Oh, the answer was that they'll have to work with DOT to do XL and detail lanes at the entrance on Highway 362 Williamson Road. Is there anybody else on my, yes, sir, please come forward. Name and address, please.
Chad Goggin, 788 Oak Grove Road. Well,
go ahead, sir.
Thank you for holding this forum tonight in the center of the city. I am correct in assuming this is the city center. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So this brings my first question, and that is, according to the let's see, the 2018 to 38 comprehensive plan, high-density developments are intended to be situated near the city center. Where we live is about as far from the city center as you can get before you get into the county. How is this not inconsistent with the comprehensive plan?
So in terms of the comprehensive plan, we have certain areas that are zoned for certain areas. And so this is looking at what's the use in that area. There is high density residential in that general area.
Yes, and your comprehensive plan specifies that your intent is to build this high-density residential near the city center and related amenities. This is not near the city center. 788 Oak Grove Road or Oak Grove Road, that whole area is not near the city center. Seems incompatible.
What are you considering the city center?
Well, that's why I asked in the beginning, are we in the center of the city? Is this the city center? The answer I got was yes. I think we just heard this is the city center. Well, this area of town, not geographically where I'm standing, but yeah, this part of town, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, I guess second point is, which has already been raised, but, and of course by you, Mr. McWard, some regrettable collective nouns and pronouns tonight. We say they or them, but emotions are very high, chiefly for the reason that we all have skin in the game. We live there. Okay, we have something to lose. And I think the gentleman who spoke a couple of moments before me, a great point, maybe not so realistic, but if the developers were to buy our houses and move their families, move themselves in there, and then build this development, their perception may change. It may not seem such a benign change to the area because I've been there for 23 years. Many have been there longer than I have. I think there's just a regrettable plan underway.
Thank you.
All right. And my last point is this. Many people only found out on Sunday of this week that this was happening, Saturday, Sunday. Now, some people knew before then, but many of us, the two small signs on that property on the way to the house, trying to get home, it's very easy to miss them. So I can't say that we were all very thoroughly notified. And if somebody really did have the intent to involve the community and to take into consideration the feelings, the history of everybody who lived there, they might have made more of an effort to include us and to really understand the opinions of the people that live there rather than maybe gloss over it, rather than maybe under-communicate. So we haven't had, I guess, quite the time to prepare as eloquent an argument and as great and well-presented and lengthy a plan as our friends, the developers over here. And I think there are some questions such as, is this a case of spot zoning? I don't know. It would probably take somebody with more legal expertise than I have. My point is, I think we'd all appreciate more time to be able to gather and plan as a community and form similarly a cogent argument, just like the developers made here, and get the same benefit of planning time, the months they've had versus the days and hours that we've had. We'd like to be able to do that and then present with one voice our feelings on the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else on my right like to come forward? May I address? Or I'm sorry, take my vision back. Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Gwen Flowers Taylor. I live at 134 Spalding Street. I'm Spalding County Board of Commissioner and also a member of the Spalding County Water and Sewer Authority. And my concern here tonight is that part of what I heard in the presentation was that because there is no sewer capacity available for that area, that there is going to be an application for a plant, a package plant, a package sewer plant. And in my history with the Water and Sewer Authority, I'm very much aware that it requires a good bit of land for a package plant to make a spray field, because that is the way that you disperse the effluent that comes from the treatment. So with 30 acres, the potential to develop 150 units, the need to build a package plant and to have the additional spray space, I'm just not real sure. I know they say they're on the front side of the development, but who knows whether or not the land will perk? Who knows whether or not everyone who is already living in that area will not have the benefit of the smell of that effluent? Because the spray field has to be in an area adjacent to the plant. I have some concerns because when I hear what the plan is, it is very much a plan, an idea, and not a plan. To say that we are planning on doing amenities, well, they can be an $8 million aquatic center, or it can be an $800,000 splash pad. So saying that to me means very little, because you don't have any guarantees and you haven't really gotten to the planning part of this. But I just ask you to, in your consideration, to think about how it's going to be for the families that are already living there, those living in the city and those living in the county, who will be exposed to the effluent and the smell that comes from a spray field that is connected to a package plant. The other thing is that I have had one experience in this county where a package plant was used, and that was at the Highland Mill Village. And I know that the city's plan is to take that over, but it comes with its own problems. And even having someone else to build it, you don't really have, the city doesn't have a history of what happens as a result of it, whether it's unintended consequences or what happens generally where someone else has it. I just ask you to not be cautious, but just aware that there's other things other than the density that is inherently, to me, a problem in how this development is being laid out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I answer that?
You may, if you, real quick, on the package plan.
We have had soil work done, and it won't be a spray fill at all. It'll be an underground sewer, like a large septic tank. It all absorbs into the ground. Won't be anything on top of the ground.
So Mr. Governor said it would not be spray field, it'd be a very large septic tank system where it's in the ground. Just to answer your question on the package plan.
May I ask an additional question?
You
How
may.
many acres will that require?
Acreage on that?
Well, we don't have that exact.
The plan's on.
We got 20-something more acres back there that you won't even take a portion of that.
He doesn't have the specifics at this time. I think there's a gentleman back on the left. Yeah. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
My name is Rod Goolsby. I live at 740 Oak Grove Road. I've lived in my house for 23 years. I just feel like this is not a good fit for numerous reasons. It's already been mentioned. I've been talking to my neighbors. I think if this gets passed, there's going to be a lot of good people leaving Baldwin County. And I just really wish y'all would think about this hard and think about the families that's going to be affected. I built this house as my home. I don't want to leave, but if that goes across the street, I will be leaving.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else on the right side? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Harrison, 653 Oak Grove Road, lived there for 24 years. I oppose this development just because of all the traffic congestion it's going to cause and all the other problems that will probably ensue. Thank you.
And could you, your first name again, please?
Cheryl
And the last name?
Harrison.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison.
Yes, sir.
Go on the right side. Yes, sir.
My name is James Barnacle. I live at 780 Oak Grove Road. I have a couple of questions I asked the lady that made the presentation. One is, how was the property there initially as become a selling point to you to build those apartments there? When you have the condensed housing development there on Pine Hill, Powers Court, and also the switch track there where the railroad crosses the highway. I think the engineer that runs the train out there has a bone to pick with somebody in the neighborhood because he loved to blow that horn, and for a long time, just across about 40 or 50 feet there. And then it ties the traffic up really bad. And he'll be there for a long time. So that's going to present a problem for anyone that's interested in those apartments as well, because they're going to hear that horn loud and clear, believe me. But that's basically all I wanted to say. I have the same sentiments as most of the people here that if this goes, I'm sure it's not going to be very long before it goes downhill. And my wife and I are also looking at selling our home and moving somewhere else, most likely in White County. Thank you.
Is there any belts on my right, like to come forward? Any belts on this side? Go ahead, sir. In the green, dark green shirt.
Hey, Doug.
Good evening.
My name's Jeff Helms, live at 612 Oak Grove Road. Me and my family's been there about 19 years. One of the questions I had is HUD was used. Who oversees Section 8 housing? Who is that governed by?
Ms. Department of Community Affairs.
Section 8 housing is overseen by HUD,
HUD.
and we do not have.
Well, I heard her mention HUD several times. So what would prevent eventually this going to type Section 8 if they're already involved?
There's not new Section 8 being given out by HUD.
Not yet.
Yeah, and I don't foresee that happening.
I hear a lot of not finalized, costs could change and stuff. A lot of these developments go in, cost goes up, housing goes down to get them in there. You end up with a less quality product than what you promised.
Well, like I said, sir, would you like me to answer? I guess I should ask.
Yeah, sure.
Come on to the microphone.
Yes, please.
Do I?
Come to the microphone.
Microphone, please.
Yeah, if you're gonna answer the question, just step in front.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
The question was asked, what if costs change? Well, we have to still provide what we have promised. The state agency requires us to have, like I said, certain site amenities and certain types of systems. That's what we have to do in order to get the financing. So all of the underwriting that happens both from our lenders, investors, and the state agency is based on the drawings and specifications that we provide, and we have to build it to that.
Okay. I agree with you. Cost doesn't add up, the math's not there. That's the reason I'm asking about
The
going.
microphone, please.
Okay. Like I said, I agree with you. The math's not there. It doesn't add up. I mean, it's just common sense that what they're offering in this price range to these people is not there. So that's the reason my concern goes back to Section 8 government help. What it bring in there. I see no other way.
Can I ask a question just so I can kind of
Sure.
understand the perspective, along with what, Mr. Brock said? When you say that the cost isn't there, are you saying that the community can't sustain $700?
I don't think that the price of, the demographics that they're trying, they say affordable housing. I understand about affordable housing. I'm not against anybody on that.
Right. I'm
Me
just
and
trying to
my wife, I
understand
started
the
at
perspective.
21 years old. I had to rent a duplex for $400 a month. It took every penny we made to do that. We eventually saved up over that year, and I bought a house out on Jackson Road for $45,000. Lived there from probably about 14 years, had my first child there. Right. We decided to have another child. We moved to the area we're at now, 612 Oak Grove Road. We've been there for 19 years. I have two special needs kids. One's 25, he'll never leave my home. He's high function, he works from network. The other one is severe. Okay, we're already getting traffic in that neighborhood That's not possible. I've been broken into as many as other people, where I've seen crime in that neighborhood, where I've seen people walk the streets.
No, I understand it. I guess my question is, when you're saying that that the math doesn't work out, I'm not quite sure that I'm understanding.
Well, I know what I pay a month on
Let
rent,
me try to clarify
and
that.
$900 does
No,
not.
I'm asking him to clarify what his perspective is as a
Okay.
resident of the area. So repeat what you said, because I couldn't hear.
Okay, well, I know what I pay a month for rent.
Mm-hmm,
I know what I pay about $900 a month for rent,
okay,
and I know what kind of mortgage that is,
right.
okay?
Well, the reason I asked.
What I'm
is
saying
because-
is, the jobs that she was saying, that it will address people that work at grocery stores and stuff like that, the math doesn't add up on that.
So what I will say, and this is just from
So
what
I'm
I heard.
asking, where are they getting assistance at?
Right, so, while we've been sitting here, what I did look up is the average teacher salary. And it is well below
Sitting right there, $15,000 a year.
Right, so it's well below $54,000, so it's not just the people that work at the grocery stores and some of
It's
those
not.
other things. It is entry-level professionals in our community.
Okay.
And the other reason that I asked about the perspective is because we had a workshop this morning where we talked about the quality of housing in the city of Griffin. And I was shocked to find out this morning that rent in the, formerly known as Versailles apartment complex on Poplar Street is $900 a month. And people are paying $900 a month to live in
Without
Versailles.
assistance.
So, no, they're paying $900.
Well, I understand now,
It's not
I
right,
said,
no government
without
subsidy.
assistance, that you know of, or?
So for me, when I and this isn't a challenge, right, this is just how I'm putting it together. We're saying that people can afford $900 to live at Versailles, when I know full well that there are educators in this community who are well vested into their profession that fall into this 35 to 54 range, and somehow are still managing to pay what is market rate for rent in Griffin. So that was my question about what is the perspective, because I certainly understand wanting to maintain a level of quality, and a certain ambiance and decorum in an area, but I feel like there's a lot of assumption being made about who can afford this, and she did offer positions that I didn't necessarily agree with. I don't know that a grocery store clerk is going to be able to afford this, but I
Okay.
do know that a
Why
lot
our
of these,
area then?
a lot of
Why do we
these
need to cram
teachers,
an apartment in this area?
I'm sorry,
Why are we cramming an apartment in this area?
I'm not cramming anything, I'm listening just like you are.
I know that.
And so
Who has to say so that this goes through?
this entire board, none of us
Okay.
We're
individually.
learning, we're right now listening and absorbing and to make.
So
our
my
decision.
point is, I have worked my way up to be where I'm at.
Mhm.
Now I'm gonna have to move because of this. Y'all's problem is about your tax revenue and everything. I've noticed ever since we've been out there, there's more and more people coming out of Pike County. They're coming out of Pike County for a reason. It's because of bad management on the city, the county, or whatever. Just like these people said, we'll move.
Mhm. Oh, no, I certainly understand the concern, that's why I said
You've
I,
got a apartment complex already on 1941 down across from Dunkin' Donuts.
yes.
Okay, totally appropriate. That didn't impact anything down there. But you're coming into an established neighborhood and gonna destroy it.
We had a pretty good room if you attended that night, and because the road that you're thinking of 41, they had a lot of concerns with traffic and.
When I say traffic, I said I don't
understand.
think it impacted as many housing areas. I think that was a lot of property already opened up there. Y'all are basically coming down and sitting in the middle of us.
If to get this flow back through, if you've got any of the points, if you could please.
I believe that's about it.
All right.
They don't already made your
Yes, sir.
mind up.
Actually, we haven't made up our minds. We're
Okay, so I want you
listening,
to
so don't make
just
allegations.
Keep it in mind, would you want this in your neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
And I don't think neither one of you would.
Well, I didn't make any assumptions about what you would prefer, and I'm
I
prepared
know
that you
that. I'm
have
just
made
saying, I don't
assumptions
think
about
you
what I
want
would
your
prefer.
neighborhood.
But I certainly understand every sentiment that I have heard here tonight, and that's why I asked you your perspective, so that I didn't assume that I knew what you meant. So by all means,
Okay,
I'm listening.
all right.
I'm engaged, I'm asking
I
questions.
hope y'all make the right call on this.
I do.
Thanks. Yes, sir, in the back. In the- Good evening, name and address for the record.
Hey there, Randy Jackson. I live at 72 Dunlap Circle.
Go ahead, sir.
And, you know, I don't quite understand this. There's about 50 of us that's outside, and we got here plenty of time for the meeting, and we're having a hard time to hear what's going on, so we don't know what's said, and
Yes, sir.
you can't hardly hear. It's all echoing, trying to zoom it. You know, there's as many of us that was outside. I don't know how many of them have left now, but there are as many as outside as there are. There's many as outside there as are in here now. And I come to object to this. For one thing, I didn't think about it till the gentleman talked about the train. There's a switch track there. And now we back up from there past Pine Hill Road, which is a good quarter mile when they switch, because this is not a through track, it's a switch track. I didn't think about that. But they're talking about the Section 8. Don't you have to have a certain percent is this gonna be on a loan? Is there gonna be a loan for this?
Yes, from
I
a
think on
regular commercial bank, and we don't have any Section 8 that is planned for this property.
But don't you have to have like 20% Section 8 to get a loan?
No, sir.
Didn't the apartments on the north side, my understanding is, I was involved with somebody who sold that 20% of it had to be Section 8 to acquire a loan. I'm throwing that out, so that needs to be looked into, and if you tell them no, and you're saying that yes, this is gonna happen, I don't care. What I do care about is, who does this improve their lives? I guess the people that lives in the apartments it does. It's what I would think. Is it gonna improve our lives? No. Not in one little bit. And we're established. I've been there for 20 years. You know, we pay down, we've got great equity. Unless this comes in, we probably have little equity then. I mean, how are you gonna sell a house when there's 150 units? Is this right? But, you know, I'm just getting pieces, trying to piece this together, because we don't know what was said. Is that what we're talking about, 150 units coming in?
Yes, sir.
And this is same, you know, bedrooms, 1, 2, 3, 4, what?
1, 2, 3, and 4.
How many people were we talking about?
So, depending on number.
150 times average of 3.
You look at 450 people.
450 people. I mean, you cannot get out on 362 now, coming out of our driveways, coming out of Oak Grove or Lennox. You can't get out now. Sometimes I've waited 10 minutes to get out. I mean, the traffic is terrible. But the other thing is this property is in the county now, isn't it? Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and y'all are wanting to annex it into the city?
Well, it was de-annexed. It was de-annexed for a veterans program, and it did not happen. So the developers asked you to be re-annexed back into the city. So 14, it was.
All of, how much property is there?
30 acres.
30 acres. All of it's who's it in now? County, city?
County. It was in the city, but it's now in the county.
All right, and who gives okay to annex it?
This board.
And who represents us living in the county?
Mr. Bowman is your county.
I know, but who's representing us on y'all's vote? If you don't do what you want to do, where's our recourse? I mean, we can't throw you out of office, you have no vote. I mean, so y'all think about this. You're voting on affecting us, and we have no recourse even to vote against you? Yeah, I'm not real happy about this. You know, I'm 67, and you know how it is you start, all of us start out, you know, and I love grocery clerks. I was one when I was a kid, and I love grocery clerks, and I would be glad to live by them. But I just don't want 150 people that are, you know, not for walking distance from my house. Is there anybody who thinks it's going to improve our lives? Is anybody in the commission thinks that the people that live, and how many people are affected? What do you think? There's 100 houses probably that are affected by this? Is this going to improve our lives? Do we have a vote to say, I don't like what you voted on? No. So you think about this, when you change our lives, and all you're doing is looking to say, well, it's going to increase our tax revenue, and that's going to be really good. And we'll see all y'all when you move to Timbuktu, because we'd have to. I mean, what's your alternative? What would you do? You think about this, you're looking at this. Is crime gonna go down? No. No, I mean, is traffic gonna get better? All right, if we're doing 150 units, I would say you're gonna average a car and a half per unit. Another couple of hundred cars. You know, I ain't gonna be able to get out of my driveway. I mean, when y'all do this, you know, I have kids, you know, and all of us, I mean, look at the effect, look at the trickle, you talk about trickle down, look at the trickle down you're gonna have here, what it's gonna affect us. That, you know, from the time you say, okay, we're gonna start digging dirt, they're gonna start going, okay, we gotta clean up our house and get the heck out of Dodge. You know, before you make a decision that's important for us, think about putting a little empathy to put yourself, your people in our places. We've been there a long time, we like there, and I heard a little bit of talk about, it's a great neighborhood. It's a dead-end street where we are. Lennox circles all the way around. If you went out Oak Grove, it comes around and becomes Lennox circles back around, and Dunlap dead ends. Great bunch of people. We leave everybody alone, and that's a good neighbor. You know, you say good fences make good neighbors. We have good neighbors because they don't bother anybody. I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Question, because he did ask which of you represent him and the people in this room that are county residents. I do want you to know that there is a very specific legal statute that is OCGA 3636-113 that does allow a county governing authority to object to this annexation. They have to do that by written objection based upon a majority vote of the county commission and must be served on the city commission by certified mail or statutory overnight delivery within 30 days of the receipt of the notice of annexation given by the city. We are required by law to notify the county board that we are going to ask for this annexation. What we received instead was hand-delivered on January 11th, 2021. It wasn't after a vote with their board, it was just a letter signed by Mr. Wilson. That does not meet the statutory requirements to an objection. Their representative should have done that for them. They emailed another letter on March 15th directed to Mr. Jacobs, also signed by Mr. Wilson, and that's what Ms. Bellrain read into the record earlier tonight. Again, that is not a legal objection. So their county board did not meet the requirement to legally object to this annexation. That requirement is going to be something they need to take up with their county commissioners, not with you all.
Okay. Moving on with comments on my right side, we're gonna keep moving. You got some, yes, ma'am. And Chief Hamilton, if there's anybody else outside that wants to come in, please. Welcome, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Dr. Shonda Jones, 1689 Summerlin Circle, Griffin, Georgia. I'm coming here as a community advocate, as I normally do, to these meetings. Also as a member of the Citizens Diversity and Inclusion Council. And I had an opportunity to not only hear the comments in here, but as well as the comments outside in the hallway. And I think we can understand that a lot of this is deeper than just traffic issues. What I want to remind the city commissioners of is I was also on the steering committee for the comprehensive plan in 2018. And I know some people did their research, want to make sure that the commissioners were aware, for those that may not have thoroughly read that comprehensive plan, to remind you of what exactly was included in there and what your commitment was. So I wanted to just read vision statement that says, a thriving community that is safe, educated, well-planned, promotes strong economic development, and supports equal opportunities for all. The citizens of Griffin embrace its strong historic character while growing together as a community to promote economic prosperity and development, protect important natural and cultural resources, and build a successful future for the next generation that includes these community priorities. A community that strives for a high quality of life for our residents, guiding future development with informed land use plans that take into account the protection of our natural resources, providing a variety of walkable neighborhoods that embrace the live, work, play model and include sidewalks, greenway trails, and bike lanes, creating a variety of opportunities for our children, including recreational facilities, historical and educational-oriented resources. An inclusive community that seeks to offer a variety of public transportation opportunities for its residents, with special attention to those disadvantaged by age, income, or special needs. A community that embraces its history with preservation of historic resources and neighborhoods. A clean, comfortable, peaceful, family-oriented community. A community that actively promotes and pursues innovative businesses. A community that supports workforce development in local post-secondary educational institutions, and a community rich with neighborhood parks, providing infrastructure and resources to support sustainability and new development. Community goals for the City of Griffin are paramount to its current and future success. The Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee identified its top 4 priorities that are important to the community as a whole. The City of Griffin identified the following as community priorities. So under list of priorities, goals, and policies, we have goal number 4, to ensure safe, quality, long-term, and attainable housing for all residents, which I believe this proposed development addresses. When we're talking about recreation for children in this community, this development also addresses that as well. When we're talking about attainable housing and looking at the income of $35,000 to $54,000, these are our first responders, okay? These are our firefighters, our police officers, our sheriff deputies, our educators, when we're talking about these income levels. Why would we not want to provide affordable or attainable housing for those of us that work these jobs in the community that have been on the front line throughout the pandemic? These are opportunities for them to be able to live somewhere that is not substandard, as this is also one of the goals of the the comprehensive plan as well. So I wanted to come to you to say not to be deterred by what has been spoken today, to stick to your goal and to do what's right for this community. And I know that we had a lot of people up here, it seemed like tonight, we had more than enough expertise of developers, I assume, but I'm also coming to you as someone that's a former director of operations for Habitat for Humanity. And we need to stop not making equitable distributions of housing in the city of Griffin. We cannot say it's okay to put a development on this side of town, but it's not okay to put development on this side of town when people have the NIMBY, the not in my backyard attitude about things. And that's all I want to say to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Continue on my right side. Is there anybody else? Yes, sir. Did you just come in here just a second? If you can hold me for one moment and let me get over here and I'll swing back around. Back to this left, to the left side. Anybody like to come before the board? Yes, please. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jimmy Ward, and I live at 784 Oak Grove Road. I've only been there a year, and, it's a great community to live in. The one thing I need to ask the question about is we're gonna bring in another 150 units there, which that usually has, what, 1.5, 2 kids? Where are they gonna go to school? I know COVID has changed things, that we're doing online and in school, but when all that comes back together, where are we gonna put those kids? We'll need to be thinking of that too, because they're already overcrowded.
Thank you, sir. Email to my left. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your patience. Name and address, please.
Lori Curry, I'm at 353 Lennox Circle. I just have a couple questions because I've never been to one of these hearings before. So how many on the panel have to vote for this to pass? 4. And how long, if you do pass it, or do you plan on starting the construction of it?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, nice to meet you. if all goes well and we're able to get what we plan to, we hope to start in December and then of this year, and then be able to finish construction in March of 2023.
Okay, I just need to know so I know when I need to start selling my house. Second of all, you said that you two have a promise. Well, my ex-husband promised to not cheat on me. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. You can't, there isn't a verbal promise, it's a committed contract that if you
Yes,
break that.
Yes, ma'am. There are legal agreements that we have to sign that actually get recorded in the county courthouse that we promise to maintain it at a certain level. We make those promises also to the state agency, to our investors, to our lenders, as part of a partnership agreement.
I just stand opposed to this.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Again, I'm gonna, go ahead, sir. Ma'am, whichever. Well, go ahead, ma'am.
Hello.
Name and address, please.
Annelle Barden, and I live at 37 Lennox Circle. Okay, and thank you so much for allowing us to speak. What kind of blows my mind is that the area we live in is wonderful. It's great. It's like living in the country, but we're close to the city, so wonderful. We have people in the neighborhood, when the developer mentioned that she's in it for the long haul, well, guess what? There's a lot of us in there too. From a year or two up to 70 years in the neighborhood, who is passing it down to her children to live in the neighborhood. The traffic is an issue. It has nothing to do with race or gender, because number one is the developer should realize, as well as you, that traffic is awful. Especially when it comes to the train and then on Fridays. So if there's an accident, you're saying 150 units, probably 2 adults have 2 cars. You just put 300 cars on my road that's a 1 lane both ways. We're not talking about on 1941, okay? I worked in Atlanta, I know what traffic is. I worked at Crown Road. Traffic and accidents, robbing, stealing, it don't look at a gender, it doesn't look at a color, it just happens. Okay, so do we want to prevent that? Absolutely. I've been there, I think 6 years. I had planned on owning it till the end of the mortgage and probably giving it to my daughter. So that would be up in question. But growth, do I welcome growth in Griffin? Absolutely. I grew up in a small town of probably 7,000, moved to Athens. You want to go where the jobs are. You want growth. We do want growth. But 300 cars packed on 392, that is not what, I'm trying to not be ugly, but what developer in the right mind, and who would vote on 300 extra cars on the 1 lane, on 1 single lane, 1 each way? That doesn't make any sense. That is just totally ridiculous. So you're gonna have wrecks, fatalities. Who do we hold accountable for that? Who do we hold when the 16-year-olds are driving for the first time, maybe going to school or going to the store? Who's gonna be held accountable for somebody's child that gets killed in a car wreck? Because I think anybody, and by the way, I want you to realize there's a lot of people out there. This is the first time I have done anything like this. And I just want to represent, it's for everybody. Develop the land, super. Did you ever think about a 55 and older community? Or maybe some 2 to 3 bedroom, like a single home duplex that they could purchase, like Summer Woods? Excellent. That would be fabulous. Because look, you're probably going to get, I don't know how many you could be able to build in there, but it's still, the density is lower. Because I'm telling you, you're gonna have issues. Just go right ahead, because 300 cars, can you imagine? Y'all travel out there. Are you gonna vote on this tonight? Why don't y'all go out there though Friday afternoon? Go out there on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, and let's see how bad trash, so just put 300 more cars there, okay? And I'm not a rocket scientist, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that's not gonna work. So, wow, you know, people are concerned when you own land, whether it's 1 acre or 20 acres, you do get really concerned. And a buffer of 100 feet, absolutely not acceptable, totally not, it's just not acceptable, period. You wanna add some more to it? Absolutely. Put up some double line it with Leland cypress. But there are other things that you could have done, so it is about money. Then, okay, with the amenities, a better buffer, when you're gonna have a lot of amenities, you got noise. I think the last thing that I wanted to say about it is that when you bring in apartments, normally beside of subdivision, except for I did live in Athens, Georgia for 13 years, so I know you got your $500,000 homes with your townhouses that are 300,000. We're not talking about that because this is not Athens, Georgia. But when apartments go beside homes, the value normally diminishes. And it's my understanding that the Constitution says that when you purposely develop something that you know is gonna harm the value of the residents beside them, that's unconstitutional, and that somebody should be writing the residents a check for diminished value. So that needs to take in, somebody needs to think about that. I do not at all. Developing, I'm serious. I like to see develop. I love new houses going up. It's exciting. Apartments or townhouses or something that could bring in growth. But 150, you need to live out there on our road. And there again, for Lisbon and Athens, I've seen the pretty stuff in 15 years look like the trashy stuff. There is something else. Bring the development, bring something else. And you know, my taxes keep going up too, so please hear us, do something. And the thing with Pike is nice. I work there, but I think they are requiring like a 3 acre minimum maybe, which I love. I would love to have 3 acres, but not everybody can afford it. And I retired after 32 years being a postmaster. And now I believe in, you don't use it, you lose it. So I went to work 5 days after retirement for an attorney. So, you know, we have a lot of smart people out there. I don't think that they mean any bad ill for development, because development brings jobs, and that's what we want. But it needs to be a different type of development. And there again, development affects every gender, every race, the traffic and accidents. It can't handle it. I don't know how anyone could not see it cannot handle it. Even if we 4-lane, put 2 lanes on each side, 300 cars in that area, I don't see it. But anyway, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Welcome, sir. Name and address, please.
My name's Toby Bunn, live at 187 Lincoln Circle. Everybody's talking traffic. Have y'all done any traffic studies? Do we have any documentation where you've looked at the traffic in the area? Anybody? Infrastructure. They've already determined that our sewage system won't work, so they're gonna do their own. What about water? What about electricity? We've done studies.
I haven't heard any of that. Haven't saw any documentation, no paperwork. Where's it at? Everybody said traffic. That should be number one. Where's the traffic study? Can we get that stuff done before you approve this? That's my question to you. Thank you, sir.
Back to us, yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brenda Richards, and I'm at 305 Lenox Circle. And we are on the furthest end down, right before the sharp curve. And one thing I do want to bring up is about the train issue. When that train blocks Highway 362, Lenox Circle becomes Atlanta Motor Speedway. They have learned to cut through to get from before the track to the other side of the track. I know there have been many times, along with myself, my neighbors, my 20-year-old daughter has pulled out to find someone crossing the top of that hill, moving at a great rate of speed. We have neighbors who walk up and down that street nightly when the weather permits. We have animals that are being walked, and we have children playing in their front yards. Now, you mentioned the Tranquility. That is on a 4-lane highway, and that is a great deal off the road. I certainly would support someone being assisted and able to get their feet off the ground and work and live there. But we are on a 2-lane road that my husband and I have noticed numerous that the number of wrecks is increasing greatly just on the traffic. Sir, I did an impromptu traffic thing. When I left my house to come here, my husband and I counted over 50 cars heading west before I was able to just get out. So I kind of did my own impromptu traffic study. Now that's just me, but we are greatly opposed of it. I have been in my house since June of '96, going on 25 years, and I planned on staying there as long as I can. I work in Pike County. I have worked in Pike County for 12 years, and it is growing, but they're also being very cautious of what is being allowed to be built. And the prices of houses in Pike County are astonishing right now. I just wanted you to know that the salary of teachers are increasing, and the amount of rent that is going to be asked, my home mortgage is not that much money. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why would somebody rent for $900 with the economy and to purchase a house cheaper? But again, I'm opposed. I'm opposed to the traffic on my road. I have learned to love the train. You can hear it through the woods. And it's like I said, though, someone is going to get hit or someone is going to pull out and be blindsided when it turns into Atlanta Motor Speedway. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Michelle Bunn. I live at 187 Lenox Circle. We've only been living there for 6 years. So we have not bought our house as long as everybody else has. The neighborhood is awesome. We love it. Main concerns, I know the value of our house will go down. That's fine. But the traffic, we had called and complained already about the traffic from the train. To get out of our neighborhood, it does literally take 10 minutes on average. This is not just at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This is in the morning, me trying to get to work. It takes literally 5 to 10 minutes to get out because of the traffic. It's a 2-lane road at 55 miles an hour. Not 35, but 55. Cars do not just go 55, they're going faster. Then the train is an everyday issue at different times. Sometimes it's at 3, 3:30, 4, all the way until 6 o'clock. So with this additional property being developed, the train traffic is right here. This is where the train sits. This is where our road is. So for us to get out, that traffic is backed up all the way to Pine Hill. Cars go around other cars to get onto Oak Grove and go around. There's been almost head-on collisions where people are trying to go from one side of the track to the other side of the track. So if you're putting additional 200 plus cars in that area on a 2-lane road at 55 miles an hour, you're asking nothing but disaster. And also, that's 150 units. Where are these people going to school at? I work in the school system. That side of town is already maxed. With COVID guidelines right now, next year, we're probably looking at everybody coming back into the school system. Moreland School, you're gonna have to add on. Spalding High, you're gonna have to add on. Carver Road, you're gonna have to add on to those schools because 150 more families just in this one general area is gonna overpack those classrooms, and we already have restrictions in there. So where are all these kids gonna go to school at? How are these teachers gonna be able to teach these kids at a safe distance? So I want you to think about that. Think about the traffic at 55. Think about how these schools on this side of town will be affected. I mean, there's other places in Griffin that this can be built at. Think about how this is going to impact this whole side of town. Because to me, I like to see new houses. I love those new houses that just got built behind the police station. Those are beautiful. And I think the people that live there are taking good care of those places. But putting 150 here, there's also a little pond on this land. There's wildlife. What is the sewage going to affect that wildlife back there? There's a creek that runs there. How are they going to protect the kids from going back there to that little pond? So I really want y'all to think about this before y'all pass this, about the safety of the kids, the families that this is going to impact. Not just my whole neighborhood, but the potential families that this is going to impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bynum. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Janine Smith, and my first name is Nora. I did send an email, so I live at 605 Oak Grove Road here in Griffin in the area. So I just want to thank you for hearing us, really. This whole process has been interesting. We have not lived in the area as long as most of our neighbors have. We actually lived in Fairbanks, Alaska for about 25 years and just moved to our house. It'll be 3 years this summer that we've lived in our house on Oak Grove. And so I only tell you that because before we moved here, my husband looked for probably about a year. We made a decisive decision that we were gonna move to Griffin, and he had looked for about a year for houses. And part of our process is really praying about where God would lead us. And so that's not to sway you in any way, pull on your emotions, but it's just to say that our choice about the house that we found was a big surprise to us. It kind of came at the last minute. It was available. We made an offer from Alaska, bought it before we didn't buy it before we saw it. But anyway, we were very sure, like, this is where we want to live. And so that's kind of where our investment is. Like, we've not been there as long as our neighbors have, but I mean, this was a house that we thought, we're here. We're here in this house for the long haul. And so this whole process of even coming, we saw the small signs, and so we came to that meeting on the 15th and raised our objections there to the planning and zoning. We had no idea that there was this type of sentiment with our other neighbors. We just started talking to a few, and so I feel like this whole process is amazing, that even though we're opposed or even though we have differences of opinion, I feel like, wow, these are smart people who love their home. And so my appeal to you as a board, and I came before tonight thinking, oh, they've probably made up their mind, but since I've been here, I will tell you that I don't have that opinion anymore. I see that you're listening, you're asking questions, and I sincerely appreciate that. But my appeal to you would be that you sincerely consider what all these people have said. Yes, it's a lot of emotions, but it's so much more than that. It's that it would change the lives and there's about 80 homes in there. It would change the lives of those. We don't know that for sure. We can't see into the future and say, oh, just because this apartment complex is going to come in, we know. I'm trying not to be fearful about it and just go with whatever. But I feel like the bigger issue here is, do you want to make a decision and say, yes, we're going to approve it, when you have so many people who are opposed to it? And so that's more of my appeal, is that you don't approve something that so many people who are invested in this situation are opposed to it, even if it were to table it. So thank you so much again for hearing us. And is that it? You got it.
Is there anybody else on my left? Gentleman back right? And Chief Hamilton, is there anybody else outside?
There's a pile of folks out there. My name is Scott Housley. I live at 131 Lennox Circle. I've been there for 15 years. I have invested in my home, much like everybody else here that owns a home. You don't buy a home to watch it diminish. You put your time, you put your efforts into it, and you pour your money into it. You put your heart in it. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that I have. I think with the apartment complex coming in, the concern of property values dropping is always an issue. The people that come there, that's not an issue. There's always concerns. When we moved there, my wife and I went at night and drove through the neighborhood very slowly with our windows down, just listening to see if there was any crazy actions going on, something that we just didn't know, just because we hadn't, lived in the area. We lived in Williamson, prior, just a few miles down the road, prior to moving in there. And we found it to be a very nice neighborhood. It was something that, for myself, that I was very proud to be able to come up and purchase a home there. Really, in my youth, I never would have thought, probably much like a lot of people here, that I ever had the ability to have a nice home. Been in construction for 32 years. And I came up through the ranks. I've worked hard, and I've been with the same company for 28 years. And I plan to retire from there, and plan to retire from Lennox Circle, at Lennox Circle. My wife and I made a plan. Just like everybody here, you plan for retirement. This doesn't fit our plan, unfortunately. I'm working on projects at my home right now to improve it. Making sure that things look good. I see all of my neighbors out working in their yards, doing improvements on their homes, because we're proud, and I don't use that in a bad way, because I think pride is a really bad thing. But we are proud of what we have. Don't want to see it diminished. We don't want to see our values go down. And I think that traffic is a huge issue. I can't bring up any more issues than the people before me have already done. I think the lady before me was pretty much a mic drop, but you know, I felt like I needed to stand here and have my opinion and my voice heard. I've lived in Griffin I graduated from Griffin High. I moved here when I was in the 10th grade, and proud to graduate from Griffin High. That was back when we just had the one high school. And as a matter of fact, I was the first graduating class out of what was then new Griffin High. But I just wanted you guys to hear what I had to say. And I'm glad that you guys have this forum for us to be able to stand and give our opinions. But I hope you guys understand, some people are a little more oomph to them with their speech. And I understand that. And some people are very elegant in the way they speak. I'm not one of those, unfortunately. But I appreciate your time, and I wish that you would consider before you vote of the investment, the heart, and the love that we put in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on my left or right? Please. Well, name and address for the record, please.
My name is Danny Gooden. I live at 416 Link Circle. Biggest issue I have right now is looking at the resources as a community going into something as, as vast as this may be. We don't have, I don't know, the local school systems there at Moreland and Carver can handle 150 families coming in. Not without the addition of the trailers that we've had to do some of the other schools. There will be a big problem there. As you would bring more of that into you kind of diminish what that little area is over there already. It's a beautiful area. Both of my kids went there. Both of them moved on from there, went to high school, graduated. Been here 46 years. Okay, I don't see that we have the industry to continue to support this area with an apartment complex on the north side, one on the south side. You build a complex like this for one or two reasons. You either want people to come into your community to strengthen what you already have, or you're trying to better maybe some existing conditions that they're already in. Well, if we're improving what they're already in, what does that property, what is that going to do for where they're already at? Is there somebody somewhere there's going to be a negative reverse effect on it? Okay, within the industry, I just don't know that we have enough jobs within the local area to really support that kind of quick growth, I would say. Okay, I don't know that we have the water. I know a lot of times, we water out there, and a lot of times during drought-driven summers, we're on every other day, every 3 days, every 4 days, just because we're still off, if I'm not mistaken, here, one reservoir. We had two. Okay, but the restrictions are still abiding. And I don't know that have we put enough math into the fact that we can support all that? That's a question I'd like to ask. Do we have that in place that, okay, if we bring in, I don't know what the North Complex, does anybody know what the North Complex unit-wise was? 120? So we're talking about 270 units if this goes through. Do we have enough natural resources? Natural resources being our people. Okay, jobs, literally water to support all this. I don't know that those provisions have been, taken into effect. You've heard a lot about the traffic, and it is an absolute nightmare. Okay, especially when you need to go somewhere. Unfortunately, that's when it's at its worst. The train itself, we're not going to get rid of the train. It's got to support the industrial park right down the road. I understand it. Okay, but at the same time, it's going to create an issue. And if you're only going to put one entrance, which is currently what the picture shows, is one entrance into the complex. We're literally right there at the railroad. If there is a train at that crossing right there and they're doing their thing, it's backed up all the way to Pine Hill. If you're trying to exit that apartment complex, you may be 30 minutes or better before you can ever get out. There's no other way around it. Unless somehow, some way there's built into this, there's more to it than what's being displayed right now, and there's gonna be exits on other sides. Okay, it's just, I don't know that little area could handle what's being proposed. Not within the community, not within the road, not within the infrastructure. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to come? Sir, name and address for
Cole Williams, 683 Oak Grove Road. I've been in my current residence, I guess, 5 or 6 years. Mr. Jimmy, John over here, Mr. 788. I don't believe I've formally met you yet. Some of the best neighbors I could ever ask for. They're great. They don't come and bother me. I couldn't ask for a better neighbor. At first, before I walked in here, this is the first time I ever come. At first, I thought it was some of these people throwing trash in my yard driving by my house. And well, after sitting here and listening to everybody that spoke, now I know it's the people that are avoiding the trains. And I can't say anything that hasn't already been said about schools, crime, traffic. I think as far as I can recall, there's only been one person to come up here that was for this community you're talking about building. And I do not understand why you would even consider voting yes on something like this when you have abandoned buildings across the tracks right down here that I see sitting empty all the time. You could redevelop those, make beautiful lofts, bring more people into downtown Griffin. That's all I have. I hope you vote the way everybody here wants you to vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Is there anybody else like to come from the board? Please. Name and address for you.
22-1 Laramie. My name is James Dutton. I'm going to try to speak slow. I tend to speak a little fast, just so that the folks tuning in and listening outside, and there's a bunch of them, can hear me clear over Zoom. A lot of folks have come tonight, and they started by thanking you all for having us here and this chance. I'm not going to do that, okay? You guys aren't affording me this ability to do this. My Creator has given me the unalienable right to come and address my grievances with my government. That right is protected in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights of the Constitution. That says that you can't stop me from coming here. So I thank God for the right that He has given me to come and address this board. I will thank you, however, for listening. Now, I have been before, and I'm wearing the t-shirt to prove it. I hope this time it turns out a little bit better for me personally than it did last time. There's still some ongoing litigation there. So far, so good though. My background is in economics. My background is in zoning. I worked for the city of Atlanta doing just that. If I learned nothing from my degree in economics, it's that people respond to incentives. All people, all companies, all businesses, all of us respond to incentives. Now, I'm gonna shift feet for a second. I hate to be the lawyer in the room to tell you about this great thing called the bankruptcy shuffle. If you make this zoning change tonight, you can attach as many conditions as you want to it. They can make as many awesome promises as they want and say, we promise you're gonna attach these as conditions. See, we can't. But if the zoning change happens, their business can, if there's an incentive to do so, file a skeletal bankruptcy inside, before that bankruptcy closes, before it's an actual official bankruptcy. Once they just file it, they then can sell that property to another company. It's happened before. It's happened before. It's happened before. It's happened before. It happens all the time here. What happens when they sell it to another company in their bankruptcy? All of those conditions fall off by right. The zoning change stays. All of the conditions by right are gone instantly. They don't have to come back for a vote. They don't have to get someone's permission. That's what happens by law. You want to know why some of the amazing developments that we were promised went south real quick? That's why. That's why. If a company thinks it can file this bankruptcy, sell it to another company that perhaps the same owners even own, and have all those conditions fall off, and then they can build as much as they want, if they have an incentive to do so, and let's face it, folks, they do, they're gonna do just that. And they will have the right by law to do so. You wonder why the great communities started making these changes? These great plans, oh, we have this wonderful idea, we promise it's gonna be great. Please attach all the conditions you want to it. We promise it's gonna be awesome. Oops, all those conditions are gone. We're gonna build anything we want now, by right. People respond to incentives, and there's a huge incentive to do so. You look at that map, they're gonna rezone the whole thing. Oh, we promise, we're just gonna build this little bit over here, we promise. There's conditions locking us into just 150. Oh, please rezone the whole thing though, wait, just for continuity's sake. Just so that when we sell it to another developer and all those conditions magically go away, now we can stick as many as the base zoning allows us in. You think 150 is too much? You think that's a lot of traffic? You think that's a lot of kids coming to our schools? You just wait until they double, triple, quadruple that. People respond to incentives. How many times are we, as citizens of Spalding County, gonna be fooled by this? How many times are we in this room gonna be made to look like fools? They're coming to do it again. Now, some people have said, this isn't the right neighborhood to do this in. Don't do this here. Do it somewhere else. That's also short-sighted. That's also short-sighted. I agree with you, Mr. Commissioner. That's short-sighted. There were a bunch of bad decisions that former members of this very board made that have made parts of Griffin hard to live in communities, that the police have to visit a lot, that the housing is substandard. We know it. We talked about it. We want to do something about that. So no, don't just spread this somewhere else. Oh, we won't do it here. We'll do it somewhere else. Don't do it anywhere in this community. Anywhere. It's not right for this community. It's not right for the southeast. It's not right for the northeast. It's not right for the north side of town. It's not right for any part of this community. What this board needs to do is look at the base zoning and change not the conditions, but change the specific quality of the housing, of the commercial, of the industrial that has to be built, and anything without conditions, and say you can't build substandard stuff. You can't build stuff where we have to have a contract that says we get to come in and inspect it and make sure you're not breaking it. I lived in apartments for a long time before I moved back to Griffin. I never had to sign something that said they get to come in and inspect. What kind of community are you building when you're planning for that sort of destruction? That's not right for this community. It's not right for any part of Griffin. I know that there were bad mistakes made in the past. I'm from Griffin. I graduated in the class of 2000. There's plenty of bad mistakes made in the past. It is time for us to look and see that mistakes that have repeatedly been made, see that bad past and change it and make a better future for our children and our grandchildren. Or those children and those grandchildren, they're not gonna live here in this community. They're gonna move somewhere else. I want my kids to live and grow up here in Griffin. I want my grandkids to live and grow up here in Griffin. And I think that you'll join me in wanting that same. Don't allow this bankruptcy shuffle to happen. We promise it's gonna be amazing. How many times have we heard that? And how many times has the rug been pulled out from under us? Ladies and gentlemen, please don't let the rug be pulled out from the citizens of Griffin one more time. It's up to you to say no more. Not here and not anywhere else in Griffin. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience like to come before the board? Is there anybody else? Chief Hamilton, is there anybody else outside? Do we have anybody on Zoom or any comments at this point? Any more questions or comments from board members? Ready? Okay. In part, Mr. Cogan, do y'all have any other comments or anything? You're good?
I guess I do have one more question. I know we had, according to letter A, not exceed would, I know that you're still in the planning, it just depends on the vote and so forth, but, just looking at, that would be 5 units per acre. Have you, I mean, are you dead set on the 150? Would you consider, I mean, I know you have a budget and you have this, okay, so there wouldn't be any scaling down to the project?
Yes, ma'am.
So we've been running our financial models with 150 as the minimum. As was said earlier, before 2014, this was zoned for higher density residential, and was it 16 units per acre at the time?
PRD for multifamily allowed 16 units to the acre. HDRA allows for 12. So then this would be 5.
Right, so I feel like we're already self-selecting something lower that seems to make sense for both the numbers, but also for the scale of the area.
I understand. Thank you for answering that.
You're welcome. Thank you for.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall how many units the women's or the veterans home that was being proposed was, just to give us a reflection back on what we were giving up in exchange for at that time?
I don't remember how many units. There was never like an official plan. Kind of when that project was going through and ultimately was de-annexed, it was presented much in the same manner, kind of how you guys are hearing this one tonight. For obvious reasons, you don't get too deep into the engineering, unless the project is approved. But it was for essentially a hospital portion to the VA that would help assist with treatment, PTSD issues, and substance abuse issues. And then there was also like a campus-style cabin kind of residential component that was tied to that too, where the residents would live in a cabin type environment throughout the property.
And then the county, when they accepted the de-annexation, they put the institutional commercial zoning on it based on that use of that at the time.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you. All right, moving out of the public hearing into consent agenda, we take items 4 and 5 together. If that sounds good. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Brock with a motion, Mr. Murray with a second.
All right, who seconded?
Ms. Murray seconded, Mr. Brock made a motion.
Yes, thank you.
You see it, Mr. McCord?
I don't.
If you can straight roll the screen down to items 4 and 5, please. Can you see it now, sir?
4 and 5.
Yes, sir. You can see it.
All right. I was just make sure when the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay. So we've got items 4 and 5 on the consent agenda with motion and second. All in favor, please signal by raise your hand. 7-0. Moving into the regular scheduled meeting, item 6, to consider minutes of the Griffin Board of Commissioners regular meeting on March 9, 2021. We have a motion to approve. Mrs. Murray with a motion, Mr. Tinsley with a second. All in favor, please signal by raise your hand. Anyone, you got one abstention. So 6-0-1 with Mr. McCord abstaining. Item 7, consider a request for a special use permit to allow the use of a single-family dwelling unit in the planned commercial development PCD for the property located on 214 South 12th Street with the conditions of A, structure meets all required applicable residential codes to bring the structure into compliance. I, building codes, fire codes. B, additionally, if the structure reverts to a commercial use, then it must meet all applicable commercial codes and occupancy requirements. 1, maximum occupancy based on formula obtained from statewide minimum building code, ICC, International Congress Code and Georgia amendments. 2, fire and life safety compliance based on inspection. And C, upon vacating this location for this principal site, the special use permit will be void. Do we have a motion to consider? Mr. Tinsley with a motion, Ms. Murray with a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please signal by raise your hand. On item 8, just want to make a comment on that. As of tonight, I had only had 2 residents in the community actually reach out and contact me, which I thought was kind of strange, considering that we're known for anytime you have zoning requests or changes in this community to fill the courtroom. So I want to personally thank each of y'all for sharing from your heart what this means to you. I consider Mr. Pilkington a longtime friend, but I had questions in regards to the transition from the development on the city side versus what I consider like an LDR A development where you live at least 1 acre lots. And there probably should have been a transitional development from the zoning on the Pine Hill Road side, moving in there. So I personally just want to thank each of y'all for coming tonight and expressing your opinion. So with that being said, I'm not planning to support this, but would be open to the developer working with the community to try to figure out some type of compromise or way to work a seamless transition into that area. So just giving you my appreciation for y'all. Before I call the questions, anybody else like to make a statement or comment or anything?
Mr. Mayor, I just wonder if we should table this until we complete traffic studies. Here again, I'm not sure what the impact of the school system is going to be. So I'd make a motion to table.
Second.
So a motion and a second to table.
You didn't even read the item right.
Okay, I'm sorry, thank you. Item A is consider a request to annex and rezone property located on Williamson Road consisting of 30.24 plus or minus acres from office and institutional county to high density residential ACD District A. So Mr. Tinsley's made a motion to table and Mr. Brock made a second. Any questions or comments?
Can I make a comment?
You may.
You are such lovely speakers and lovely people. It makes me almost want to leave my congested home and move to be with you. Such a great community. Some of the best speakers I think I've ever heard in my life. And I'm a new commissioner relatively. This is my first term. And I put a lot of trust and support into our planning and zoning and the board. And I don't usually sway from them at all whatsoever because they do the legwork, and they too told me that they did not have opposition in people. I had no one call. And so I was actually going to support, because I normally always do, and I still do support the zoning authority, our board that we have. But tonight, if we table just to get, I was learning a lot tonight. I would like some more clarification on the sewer and septic, what exactly will happen there. I know, Mr. Copeland, you said there's plenty of room, but I want to be sure on that. But I did hear each and every one of your concerns, and I would be okay with tabling, but it's clearly just for those reasons.
Anybody else? We have a motion and a second to table this item. All in favor of tabling it, please raise your hand. All against, like sign. 6-1 to table the motion. Item 9, consider an agreement with OpenGov and Georgia State Contracts vendors through SHI International Corp. for cloud budgeting reporting solution digital budget book for $37,000 annual subscription plus $43,105 for implementation training cost.
Make a motion to approve.
Mr. McCord with a motion, Ms. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0 on item 9. Item 10 is consider agreement with Ronicus for a hosted City Griffin website platform that will include an upgrade of the existing City Griffin website, upgrade to the agenda software, addition to the boards and commissions module, and addition of the GovAccess citizen service platform in the amount of $31,708.02.
So moved.
Mr. Tinsley with a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Murray with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0. Item 11, consider an operating lease agreement with John Deere for 644P loader for a term of 5 years with an annual payment of $73,661 and amend the City of Griffin fiscal year 2020-2021 operating capital budget accordingly. Was motion approved?
So moved, sir.
Mr. Brock with a motion, Mr. Tinsley with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand on item 11. 7-0. Item 12, consider on first reading amending the Code of Griffin, Georgia at Chapter 30 Cemeteries, Article 2, Rules and Regulations of City-owned and maintained cemeteries. Motion to approve, first reading. Mrs. Murray with a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Flowers with a second. All in favor, signal by raising your hand. 7-0 on item 12. Item 13, consider resolution advising fees for certain service rendered through the golf course and the cemetery division of the Public Works Department, and authorize the amendment to the fee schedule to reflect those changes. We have a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion.
Mrs. Murray with a motion, second. Second by Mr. Tinsley. All in favor, please signal by raising your hand. 7-0 on item 13. On item 14, consider a claim on behalf of Willie Ogletree who allegedly suffered personal injuries in a motor vehicle accident on January 8, 2021 involving a city vehicle. Any line of notice from the attorney Ryan Rucker, the Dressy Law Firm LLC, received February 11, 2021. Staff recommends denial. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to deny the claim.
Mrs. Murray with a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Tinsley. All in favor of denying the claim, please signal by raising your hand. All against denial? Ms. Ward, you were supporting the denial? Say
Yes.
okay, thank you. 6-1 with Mr. McCord voting against the denial. Item 15, consider a claim on behalf of Robbie Goat, who allegedly suffered personal injuries in a motor vehicle accident in a city vehicle on November 4, 2020. Any line of notice from attorney Tim C. Kramer, Kramer, dated February 8, 2021. Staff recommends denial. We have a motion to
make a motion to deny the claim.
Mrs. Murray with a motion. Do we have a second?
No, second.
Second by Ms. Flowers. All in favor of the denial, please raise your hand. All against, like sign. 6-1 with Mr. McCord voting against. Item 16 is considered related claims on behalf of the city heirs Dana Bernstein and her minor children, Darius and Desire Bernstein, alleging injuries on August 17, 2020, when the ceiling of the apartment number B5, Ava Park Apartments, 1100 West College Street, extension collapsed. Any live notice from attorney Madeline Kahn, Morgan & Morgan, dated February 15, 2021. Staff would recommend denial.
I make a motion to deny.
Mrs. Murray with a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Brock. All in favor of denial, please raise your hand. All against denial. 6-1 with Mr. McCord voting against. Item 17 is consider renewal of the memorandum of understanding among the City of Griffin, Spalding County Board of Education, and University of Georgia partners as participants at the Spalding County Archway Partnership for fiscal year 22. Mr. Tinsley with a motion, Ms. Murray with a second. All in favor of the supporting the renewal, please signal by raise your hand. Ms. Ward, you're good on thumbs up? 7-0 on item 17. And item 18, Deputy City Manager-elect, City Manager, Mr. Connor. City Manager.
What do you mean? Okay, good. Didn't have an item 18 now. Very quickly, I did want to go over a couple of things with you all. We have CARES Act money that has been dispersed, and I thought it was important that you knew where we were at this point because it has been a while. We have been able to disperse through the Salvation Army $127,726 of the $250 that we gave them. So we're a little over halfway there. With that, there were 650 applicants submitted, 491 were approved and assistance was provided, 35 applicants were not approved, and 50 remain for review and are subject for approval. If they weren't approved, it mainly was because they didn't fill out the application completely. So we didn't have all the information and they failed to follow up. At this time, I have asked for what our usual sort of delinquencies are because it's time to sort of reestablish what we normally do as a city. It's pretty much business as usual. I think those that have needed help have gotten that help. We would like them to put the link back out on the website. We did take that down pretty quickly for the CARES Act because they were overwhelmed with those applications. So we'd like to put that back out to see if we can spend the rest of that money that we earmarked for that purpose. We would also, though, like to reestablish the credit card fees and reopen the front of City Hall. We think it is time for that at this point. So if you are okay with that, we can get all of that sort of in the works. We have, the city itself has absorbed almost $165,000 in credit card fees for our customers over the last year while we know we have been shut down and haven't been able to help as much as we would like to. So unfortunately, that's not something that's budgeted. That is an expense we've had to use from our CARES Act funding. And so at this point, if we're going to be fully open, we do think it's time to ask them to reassume those fees. And we are working with Invoice Cloud to try and get those lowered as we speak and hope to have something done by our budget year in July 1. I'm sure you also have all heard that the American Rescue Act was passed by Congress. Very tentatively, we have been allocated $7.2 million. That does not mean we will get $7.2 million, and it is definitely not going to be in a lump sum. So we've already had some questions about that from citizens, and I just wanted to make sure that y'all were aware we will work through that. But because that is so new, they don't expect to have that out until at least, the Treasury won't even have out guidelines until at least 60 days after they adopted that bill. That was adopted less than 2 weeks ago. So we're still talking a month before we even have a clue how we can spend that. So yes, that is our tentative allocation. They would pay half of that this year and the other half next year. We would have to spend it by 2024, but it is a little bit premature to even have discussions about how we can because the Treasury has not issued that guidance. Also, just so you all are aware, we are beginning our subcommittees for our community-wide strategic plan. They start Thursday. I think the executive committee Goldberg, you know that they did not put any elected officials on these subcommittees, but a lot of your staff and citizens are on these committees. So you'll be probably being questioned and hearing things about economic development, crime, poverty and charity, education, and housing. And then 2 last reminders, please don't forget you are invited to meet and greet our new superintendent, Mr. Keith Simmons, on Monday, March 29th. That is from 5:30 to 6:30 at the College and Career Academy. You are all invited to attend. And then, of course, I know you won't forget that Mr. Smith's retirement breakfast is a week from today, which is hard to believe. So I think I've heard from all of you that you will be there at 9 at Historic City Hall. And that is it.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connor. Mr. McCord.
Again, I want to just, I'm a little baffled when I think about what we talked about this morning in our housing situation, and we talked about Avon Park, not Avon Park, Appleton. And we talked about trying to get people into affordable homes, and think about the apartment we just approved over on the north side of town, and the sentiment and how there were no questions and we just agreed and nobody had a real problem with it. And I can't sit through and listen to people talk down about people who are, I guess we would call less fortunate. Money and owning a home does not make you any more fortunate than anyone else in my eyes, or in the eyes of Christians. Just because a person is of low income does not make that person a criminal. Because they live in a house on a ½ acre versus 1 acre or 5 acres does not have anything to do with the character of that person. And as long as I'm in this form or any other form where it appears to me that someone is going to make judgment on people based on where they live or the type of housing that they live in, I am going to speak up each and every time. You can believe it. You can call. You can do complain. You can do whatever. But I'm not going to do that. I don't know about everybody else in here. I have not always owned a home. I have not always been in a subdivision. I've lived in apartments. I've lived in Carver Heights. I lived in Quiet Hills. I grew up on Hill Street. I lived in Appleton. That was my first apartment away from home. I lived in Versailles Apartments. And the condition that it is now, it was not in that condition then. And to think that I would be judged based on living in an apartment, at the time that I lived in that apartment, I was the mayor of the city of Griffin. And I was making decisions, and I was an adult, and I was a taxpayer, and I was a voting member of this body. And my character, I thought any less of myself because I lived in an apartment. What we need to do is to continue to look for safe, affordable housing, diverse communities. This community is diverse. If you live in Griffin and Spalding County, you are going to encounter some diversity. And that diversity may be people who live in situations that are different from yours. So I don't mind people opposing because of traffic. I heard one person say it would be okay if the traffic was caused by houses or units built similar to Summer Woods. That wouldn't be a traffic problem. But if it's an apartment, then it's a different type of traffic problem. I don't buy that, and that bothers me to no end. We are never going to move forward, to me, as a society, as long as we try to separate ourselves from people that we think are less than us. And in my closing, as I always say, we are better than that. We as a community, as the one race of people that I know, the human race, we are better than that. Love ye one another. Thank you.
Ms. Murray.
I'll make it short. I just want to, again, thank you everyone for coming. Mr. Jacobs, thank you again at another meeting of very tough, and here again, I support staff also. Thank you for your hard work. And you all please come back to our future meetings. And it's good to see you all. Thank you.
Ms. Flowers.
Well, my brain ain't working. It's been up there so long. I agree with Commissioner McCord's, sentiment. I think that every time there is a zoning issue or a housing issue, it brings about the assumptions we make about the disparity about the housing standards in our community. I think that the community on Oak Grove and Lenox Circle presented a very compelling argument for why, as presented, it would be detrimental. And certainly when you look at it objectively, in terms of access to resources and traffic and all of that makes perfect sense to me. But I similarly struggle, as Commissioner McCord does, with when we begin to engage the human element of why it wouldn't work. Because that's assumptive at its nature, that we decide, oh, if it's this or if it's that. The one thing that I really did appreciate about the commenter, Dr. Jones, that came here and said, the people that they are describing in terms of financial access to these properties are the people that we're expecting to come save us when we call 911. And we think nothing of opening our door and letting these random strangers come run up and through our house and whisk somebody out or whatever the case is. So I think we have to be very mindful that to make assumptions about the type of people that would live in that neighborhood when literally on any given day, we blindly open our door so those very same people can run up in our house and save us. No one wants to live in a dilapidated neighborhood. No one wants to live in a diminished neighborhood. I own a home. I don't want my property value to go down. But the reality of it is that when people buy property, that's a risk you take. My neighbor across the street bought a house and did what he wanted to do, and it's ugly when I look out my door, but that's just what I have to deal with. And I don't think the ire or disgruntledness that I have about that entitles me to make an assumption about what kind of person he is, because I'm personally displeased with some of his choices. So I do thank all of you guys for coming out, and I suspect that you guys will come out again whenever it's time for this to come from the table. And as I have said in the past, I would ask those of you that are left in here, if there is a community meeting that you guys have collectively, is to always remember that grace needs to be included in these proceedings. I kind of disagree with Commissioner McCord. Owning a home does mean that you're fortunate. And a lot of times that fortune is not of your own doing. It's because of forces outside of you. So to make the assumption that someone doesn't afford because of the quality of their character is grossly inaccurate, and it's just wrong. So I do appreciate the way that you guys approached us tonight, and I thought it was very respectful, very dignified. But I would ask you to extend that to the people in this community who presently don't have those options available to them. Again, we had a workshop this morning about the quality of the housing, and I think a lot of you would be amazed if you knew what your police officers were going home to. You would be amazed if you knew what your ambulance driver was going home to, or the person that you trust with your kid for 8 hours at school every day, where they're living. It would amaze a lot of people. And so I don't want us to forget that, right, the bottom of the community is the foundation. And so we can't be so above the people who we think we have more than, and we forget about those people.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers. Ms. Ward.
I'm just so lost.
We are the elected officials for the city of Griffin. The city of Griffin. We have a lot of issues, as we talked about this morning. We said that we had torn down over 900 dilapidated houses. And we have rebuilt, I think, maybe three. And the people that, okay, that's 600 families that had to go somewhere else. The people that we're talking about that will possibly occupy any new structures are the people that are already here in the city of Griffin. You know, so when you start talking about the schools, what are you gonna do with the people? These are the same people. These are the people that are paying utility bills, that are supporting the city. We're saying that we want to give them other options, but every time an option comes, we duck our tails and run. I'm kidding. I mean, we say that we want to be able to have additional income so that we can give our police officers raises, give our other people raises, but I don't get it. I don't get it.
Thank you, Mr.
I just don't get it.
Mr. Tinsley.
Like yourself, Mr. Mayor, came here tonight thinking I was gonna vote for the annexation of these apartments we built. I was quite embarrassed by some of the comments made from other elected officials. And I will pray for them. And I think we need to look at the school system. I'm not sure what we've all done as far as the school system is concerned. I used to go out South Pine Hill, turn on 362, then back, I think it's on Lakeview, out that way, across the railroad tracks. So I'm very familiar with the traffic there and that darn train. It always seemed to be there when I was there. So I think I was probably the problem. But I think and the reason I asked for it to be tabled, I think I'd like to go back and look and see what impact this is going to have on our school system. There's not that many elementary schools out there. I can't imagine those kids being transported over to Carver Road. I mean, I think Moreland would be one of the schools. Spalding High School. I hate to see trailers hauled into the school systems, but I'm not sure how it's going to impact Spalding High School. So this will come back up. So you guys will need to come back, but it will come back up and be advertised. But I just want to do a little bit more study on what the impact is going to be. So I do appreciate you guys coming out. If I was in your position, I'd be out here too. So I thank you very much for coming out. It's nice to see more than just our directors here at a city commission meeting. So thank you very much.
Mr. Brock.
We had a full house. We did not have any seats. We had standing room in the back. It's a wonderful thing to see sometimes. The group that came tonight was very professional, very well prepared to talk to us. And I'm wavering right now. If I had to vote, it probably would be in Harvey's favor right now. But I want to look at the facts, like the schools, the traffic situation. My brother-in-law lives about 2 miles further out from where it is. And he's fighting cancer so bad, and I go out every evening and feed. So I'm up and down that road just about 5-6 days a week. And the traffic is awful. Well, I guess it was about 4:30, 4:45. And when everybody getting off from work, everything's going west. So they got a point. They got a good point. And I don't know what DOT even knows they're talking about doing this. So we got to work on those.
That's my concern. That's a state highway. That's not a county road. It's not a city road. That's a state highway. So have we talked to the state about making that wider through there? I don't know.
Their plans are still too vague for me to make a decision.
Thank you. So thank you all. Saw us old friends, and I guess we've made some new ones. So appreciate you. You are always welcome to Griffin City Commission. We meet the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 6 o'clock. And want to wish everyone a happy Easter, blessings to each of you. That being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, Lord.
Mr. Tids with the motion and Ms. Flowers with the second.